Sit back and get ready to have the most fun you ever had with an electronic device.
Yeah, I make chili every year. Actually, the last several years, I've been up in Boston for the Super Bowl.
But that's not really a snack.
Boston's not a snack? It's more than a snack. It's a full meal.
Chili, I don't know if that qualifies.
It's got to be, I think, finger food. Chili can be finger food, but only with certain supervision.
All right, everybody, welcome out to the Log Room. It is Wednesday, March 3rd, 2021. Jersey Johnny coming at you. And with me, as always, are none other than Mr. RadioPete and Mr. Harry Lug Nutz. Say hello, guys.
Hello, guys.
Howdy.
Howdy, howdy, howdy. How the hell are you today?
You know, it's finally starting to feel like maybe, and this is probably just false promises, but it feels like maybe winter is ending.
Oh, don't say it.
Don't
you know? I saw my shadow. Is that good or bad?
You seeing your shadow is fine.
Yes.
You seeing your shadow is fine. That's no.
It was 65 here today. So
65.
According to the groundhog.
How about the farmers?
2 more weeks, right?
Another 2 weeks. Yeah, another 2 weeks.
So that's.
As I said, we're getting close. The sun is, it's 5, almost 6 o'clock here, and the sun has not set completely yet. So it's something about it. There's something to this sunlight and warm weather and not being dark and cold and miserable all the time.
Yeah, you know what? I kind of like it that way.
Dark, cold, and miserable.
Dark, cold, and miserable. Sure. Nice.
I had a couple towns for you to visit.
Yeah, it is nice to go to work in the morning and actually have some light.
Yeah, because either you get no light in the morning or the sun's up at 4 and then it's going down at 3:30 in the afternoon. But yeah. It's I don't know. Plus, maybe it's the fact that we got some people playing baseball that maybe makes it feel a little bit like a certain time of year.
We do. There's a little cactus and grapefruit action going on.
I'm talking about baseball, John.
Oh,
not what you do on the weekends.
All right. Gotcha. Well, I confuse them sometimes.
That's right.
But
that's your
in
favorite,
any event.
That's your favorite bar, isn't it? The Cactus and Grapefruit.
The Cactus and Grapefruit Inn, yes.
It's a special.
They have all the games on.
That's right.
Every single game.
Cactus and Grapefruit Lounge. There's never a ladies' night.
Never. But in any event, I got up to 53 here today. Segue back. But sunny, 50 and 53. It was nice. It's supposed to get a little cooler tomorrow again, but as long as there's no snow.
I don't. What do you say these things for? Don't say them out loud.
And that's been your weather report. Tune in.
That's been the weather report. Tune in. Yeah, we have a comment here from Christine Costello. Hey brother. Hey John. Let's go Yankees. There you go.
Let's go Yankees. That's right. Hopefully,
Harry Lug Nutz is
hopefully between the time. Hopefully between the time we started and now, the Yankees have found some pitching.
Yeah. Well, I mean. Let's see who Jordan Montgomery started yesterday.
Who's going to coach the Yankees? Aaron Boone, going in for a pacemaker.
He got it today. He just got it an hour ago. Yeah, he got it down in Tampa. Yeah, I was a little freaky there, huh?
Did he have to trade Aroldis Chapman for a pacemaker?
That was part of it. That was part of the deal. I think Gary
really
Sanchez was possible, but
I don't think it's going to slow him down. I mean.
You don't think so?
Didn't he have heart surgery?
He had heart surgery like 12 years ago.
Yeah, and he came back and played in the same season.
Yeah.
Then he had heart surgery. Yeah. Pacemaker's nothing. They go whoop, and then it's like
bing, bang, boom, done.
They stick it in and done.
It's
it's done. And then you just don't touch the
microwave. It's like an outpatient procedure.
That's what she said. Yeah.
Stick it in, it's done. Yeah.
Don't go near any electrical fields.
Yeah, don't.
Yeah.
Or baseball fields.
Yeah. Well. Maybe he'll know better when to pull a pitcher.
Well, make sure the bullpen phone is grounded.
That's right.
Yeah, really.
Yeah.
I just hook up the app to it, and you can hit it and just give him a little zing every time you want somebody to come out. And it goes, out.
Yeah.
It's like a training collar for a dog.
Right.
That's right.
If ownership doesn't like the move, they just Oh, never mind. I meant bringing the lefty.
Yeah.
That's right.
Brian Cashman already has the app on his phone. He's all set. He's ready to go.
Is Brian Cashman still doing anything, or is he just giving up? Is he just sitting back?
He's definitely a lot more subdued than he was years ago. So
maybe we need an angrier, less sort of calm Steinbrenner in the mix. Maybe we do need a little chaos.
Does Cashman? Does he wonder like, am I? I'm not getting yelled at here.
Well, I think
there's no ultimatums being made.
I think his Bamberger's credit card was taken away from him, and he doesn't have the ability. He's shopping at Kohl's these days with Kohl's cash and a couple of coupons.
He's still got the Gimbel's credit card though.
That's right.
That's all.
He made all his big. He remodeled the kitchen 4 years ago, and that's it. He's got a brand new refrigerator called Giancarlo Stanton.
That's where he keeps all his.
It's where he keeps everything that goes stale in the ninth inning.
Exactly. Anyway, well, on that note, why don't we talk a little NBA, little National Basketball Association action. Why don't we start with the Nets today, so we don't piss off Pete?
The Nets look good.
Yeah. Well,
they should.
Why shouldn't they?
I was going to play a little game. All right,
go for it.
I mean, you can argue, and I think this is a pretty easy. I think you could argue that the Nets have 3 of the top 10 players in basketball, but Kyrie maybe doesn't fall in everybody's top 10. Okay, so top 15. Let's just be really conservative and say the Nets have 3 of the top 20 basketball players. I don't think anybody could argue with that in the NBA on their team. So if we were to take and just put some other teams together that had 3 of the remaining 17 of the top 20 together. Mm-hmm. Would they be able to beat them? I don't know. I mean, imagine if it was LeBron, Anthony Davis, and Kawhi. Right. Who wins? What if it was, let's say, Giannis Antetokounmpo, Donovan Mitchell, and Nikola Jokic? Okay. I just think we should stop the NBA. The second half should just be, okay, we know. We got the Lakers. We got the Clippers we got the Nets. Now, the other teams, okay, that actually have a chance get to pick their third player. Or the third player, much like James Harden, gets to go, I want to go play there.
And go
just for the rest of the season. Just for the rest of the season. I think that
it's like in a schoolyard. You play with him the rest of the
year. Last year when we got rid of all the shitty teams and we said, no, you guys are done for the year. We're going to have a little bit of a play-in and then a bubble playoff. Sure. Now it's just the Brooklyn, you're done. Okay. LeBron, you go last because you guys have already kind of predicted your team. So we're going to start with, certain teams and we're going to, all right, Utah Jazz, you go first. You get to pick your third player. And you could trade because Rudy Gobert, is he top 20? I'm okay. I'm just saying it would make it. I think you'd have 4 or 5, maybe 6 really good teams, and it would make a fantastic playoff.
Right. It would be interesting. It would be interesting.
Do you take like the top 20 guys from the crappy teams that aren't going to the playoffs anyway?
Top 20 players. Yeah.
Top 20 players from the teams that aren't going.
That are well, I mean,
they are in the top.
Like let's say you pick the top 6 teams in the NBA right now. I don't know who they are, but it's going to be the Lakers, the Clippers, Utah, Philly, Boston, Philly,
Brooklyn,
and Milwaukee. All right, let's just say we start with that. So those 2 teams, they could either keep their 1 or 2 best players. Some only have 1, some have 2.
Right.
Or they could trade. They could get. It's like gym class. So everybody else is available. You know what I mean? Yeah, I think it'd be fun.
It would be interesting.
I think that's just what the NBA should do every year because it seems like it naturally happens anyway.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's just.
Yeah. I mean, imagine Zion on Golden State. I know I didn't pick them as one of the teams, but Steph Curry would be available. I mean, imagine Steph Curry on the Lakers. Ooh, that makes it a little bit more interesting.
Steph Curry on the Lakers makes it interesting.
Wow.
Zion on the Nets.
No, the Nets are done. The Nets already have that. That's what I'm saying.
The Lakers are done too, though.
How the Lakers only have two guys. Name the third guy. I mean,
I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
It's anybody that has two
Right.
guys are right. I got it.
And
Yeah, but
in the beginning
so
of the
you're
year,
gonna give-
the Nets already had their two players. The Lakers had their two players. The Clippers had their two players. Everybody had their two players.
Sure.
And then James Harden said, I'm going to the Nets.
Right.
Yeah, so but then you have to give, like Milwaukee, you have to give a superstar.
Two players.
Right, they need two.
Well, I don't know.
They
Drew
all-
Holiday. They can get rid of Drew Holiday, and then he goes in the pool of available players. And maybe it has to be 8 teams, not 6 teams. Maybe it's got eight or 10 teams.
Yeah, I
And
think 6 is
10 teams, 5 in each league, top 10.
Well,
Top
listen,
10.
we could. I think they could probably work something out with the players' union. I think they'd go for that.
I think it's a good idea. I think it would make it really exciting.
You can't do the top 12 because then that would be
Right.
6 in each league, because then that would include the Knicks too, and they could
Yeah.
probably use some help. So
Well, they have one. They
They won All-Star, but
right. That means
no one's. I don't. Is
I
nobody's
think-
put Julius Randle in the top 20? No,
on the fringe.
He'd be close
he's on the front. Yeah, okay.
this year.
Maybe he's your third guy.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
He's somebody's Kyrie.
There you
Right.
go.
Which
Look, the way Kyrie's
that's not really fair because
I'm not. You know me. I'm not a Kyrie guy at all.
no, I know, but I'm
But
just saying.
I think Kyrie's top 10 right now. In fact, I think Kyrie is all NBA this year. at his
Well,
position.
if you talk about shooting guards, then he's
Well, I'm
right
just
there.
saying. Yeah.
But
I mean,
I'm saying you take rank all the shooting guards. You know, where do you put Kyrie on that
Well,
list?
Harden's number one. I mean, he's still a shooting guard, even though he's dribbling.
Well,
the
no,
ball.
he's a point guard.
All right, so he's the
point guard
best.
There you go.
So is he?
Your sister just said Durant hurt again. Kyrie is amazing. Harden is silently a genius.
Yeah, well, Durant's the best player out of all of them, and when he comes back, they're going to beat LeBron because it's basically LeBron. It's what's going to determine the NBA Finals is who's going to get hurt, Durant or Anthony Davis.
Right.
That's a bet. Boy, Vegas will be drooling over that.
Yeah, whose delicate little ankles are going to get hurt.
Yeah, that might be a prop bet, and
I think it
a
already is
lot
a
of
prop
people,
bet.
lot
Yeah, I saw
of
it,
people
actually.
could lose money. A lot of people could lose money over that.
Who's
Yeah.
the
Durant just can't stay on the court yet. Rick Schmidt,
KD or AD? You pick.
Yeah, whose glass ankles are going to be broken
whose
for
glass-
at least
Cinderella.
part of the finals?
Cinderella feet are going to crack.
Well, listen, I heard a couple guys today saying James Harden should be the league MVP.
I agree, and I think
Well,
He's absolutely been phenomenal.
Well, he's the whatchamacallit. He was named Eastern Conference Player of the Month for February.
Yeah.
He's had a couple good months. I really do want to see when they come back how the dynamics are, because Harden always seems to play better when he has to do more.
Yeah.
When he just has to be a piece of the puzzle, it's like he gets bored or something, and he's looking up in the crowd. And we'll see. I mean, I think the Brooklyn's the favorite with Durant healthy, even with Anthony Davis at 90 to 95% if he is. I still think they're deeper, especially with Harris shooting. That's the other thing is they really, they might have 4 of the top 25 players in basketball. They have the best 3-point shooter in basketball, and it's not Kyrie, it's not James Harden, and it's not Kevin Durant. So they're going to be a tough team to beat, and I just don't think the Lakers are anywhere near it. I think if that is the NBA Finals, I think you're going to see like 7 players play on each team during the finals. It's just who's going to is LeBron? Will LeBron die? He won't.
7 players at the same time. So
At the
14
same
on the
time.
court.
Well,
Yeah.
he might die. He might die, but it might be
It's a
while
new
making
thing the NBA put in. Yeah,
LeBron might die, but it might be while making a fall away jumper to win Game 7.
that's right.
Yeah.
And then it
Hang
goes in,
While
time
taking-
expires,
Well,
Lakers
did you ever-
win, and he just dies.
Did you ever notice that LeBron James allowed to take 9 steps? Is it because he looks like a penguin when he does it that it's allowed? I just don't get it. But
That's.
I mean, you got to put LeBron in for MVP too right now. I mean, every year he's like Jordan was. Every year you have to consider him.
Yeah.
Look at the minutes he's playing.
Yeah.
It's. I think the Nets are the team to beat right now, and I'll tell you what. If they can just get over the fact that they're as good as they are and finish games, I think Utah's the team that's going to give the Lakers a run for their money.
Utah is playing like crazy good basketball right now. So.
Yeah.
I don't know. Just
I mean, I think what you have to look out for are these teams that are peaking right now that are going to sneak into the playoffs. Because let's face it, the Wizards have just as good a chance to get in the playoffs right now as the Knicks do. You know, I mean, they could sneak in there. Washington's the hottest team in basketball right now.
Yeah, I suppose. They're back. There's still enough basketball left though, so they can.
There's half a season.
Yeah. On that note, with Harden too. Rockets. I know they're playing. The Nets are playing the Rockets tonight.
Yeah,
the,
back
Rockets,
in Houston.
The Rockets in Houston. The Rockets are actually retiring Harden's number 13 too.
Yeah.
So they announced that. I wonder if there's any emotions in Harden from going back.
It'd be interesting to see how that ceremony goes. I mean, I don't think it's going to be, okay, they're gonna play the tribute video and make nice, I guess. But
I hope they play a couple clips of him with his old hair because boy, it looks a lot better than what he's rocking these days.
Well, he's just playing amazing basketball right now.
So is Kyrie, and so is that whole team.
He made
six of them that play.
Yeah. Harden made history the other day. He notched his 7th triple-double since getting traded to Brooklyn. He's the first player to record at least 30 points, 15 assists, and 7 boards and no turnovers since the 77-78 season. It's
he's like number 3 on the Nets all-time triple-double list or something like that.
And he's been on the team for a month and a half.
Let's talk about triple-doubles for a minute because I know you guys get your in a ruffle when who gets more coverage, the Knicks or the Nets. But speaking of a team who never gets any coverage, centers to reach 50 career triple-doubles. Nikola Jokic, 416 games. Wilt Chamberlain, 703.
703.
So in 416 games, Nikola Jokic already has 50 career triple doubles as a center.
Mm-hmm.
So you can talk. He's better than.
You could talk about MVPs all you want. If he has to be in the conversation. He's having his best season, and I would argue that he is first team All NBA at center, even with the season that Embiid is having. He's playing that good basketball.
He is playing good basketball.
And he's doing it on a team that doesn't have and that's probably why his numbers are elevated. He just doesn't have as many options as he did last year.
Right.
Yeah.
But he almost half the amount of time as Wilt Chamberlain. Wilt Chamberlain did it in a time when triple doubles were a lot more, common for him. So
Okay. I hear you.
400 games, 50 triple. That's a pretty high record. That's a pretty high, percentage there for triple doubles.
So that's 1, 2, 8, 100. Yeah, it's a good percentage. That's a good percentage.
1 in every 8 games. Yes,
1 in every 8 games.
I'll do the math for you. A little over 8 games.
But he doesn't make anyone around him better.
He doesn't. Yeah, Jamal Murray's old world.
Yeah.
World.
Stick Jamal Murray with Julius Randle and see how he does.
Back to the Nets for a second. They beat the Spurs the other night, on Monday night.
Yeah.
Did you see Steve Nash's reaction when he found out that was the first time that the Nets had beaten the Spurs since 2003?
Did he take his mask off?
I don't know, but they made memes out of it.
He seems to always take his mask off to yell.
It was crazy. But hey, you know what?
They told Steve Nash in a press conference that the Nets have really improved their defense, and he goes, "What am I doing wrong?"
Exactly.
Yeah.
They did. We did. How? I must not have been paying too much attention.
Purely coincidental.
Absolutely. Speaking of defense and lack thereof, last night for the Knicks.
Yeah. Well, you knew they were going to lose that game. I mean, that just had loss right all over it. San Antonio's a decent team. They're one of those teams too,
Yeah.
Let them choose a third or second or third player, and you'd be surprised.
This is true. But Ntilikina actually didn't look half bad starting in that game. He didn't look awesome, but he didn't look half bad. Looked better than it was his first start of the season.
Do you hear that, NBA teams who have players we actually want? He's just just get rid of him.
Yeah, no, I know.
I was wondering if they were kind of auditioning him, but I guess what's his name needed a couple extra days to come back. So I was like, oh, Ntilikina, maybe they're putting him out there. And but he's done this before. He's had short stretches where he's looked really good, but it never seems to extend past 6 or 8 games.
Well, he played 25 minutes, and he only had 13 points, but he made 3 of 3 from 3 points.
He's solidified himself as the third best point guard on the Knicks roster.
There you go.
Yeah.
And he only had 1 turnover in those 25 minutes. So I mean, that's from his track record, it's not bad.
Well, look, I heard the other day.
No, he's not a big turnover guy.
It's good news.
More than 1 in 25 minutes, though. I mean,
yeah. Good news for Knicks fans. There are, I think it was 15 was the tally. Teams in the NBA who cannot trade first-round draft picks this year because they did so last year. So some of these superstars that are going to maybe command first-round draft picks, there's a limited number of teams that actually have the ability to do that, and the Knicks are one of them. So that's good news.
That is great news.
I still think that there could be a trade this year. I just hope the Knicks don't jump on the first available guy who says yes to them and pick and go for the wrong guy.
Right.
You know what I mean? That's what I hope. That's what. I hope.
You hopefully. I mean, ideally, you'd get a guy who wants to be in New York, not necessarily somebody who just wants to get out of wherever they are.
Exactly.
But that's then again, you could say beggars can't be choosers, but I wouldn't consider the Knicks beggars at this point, considering what they're doing this season and where they're going.
Right.
And I know a few Knicks fans, and none of them. There's some that are interested in finding a good deal if it's out there, but most of them that I know, they go, well, if we continue along this road and we don't get anybody, we don't make a deal, but we see this kind of progress throughout the end of the season, well, I'm fine with that because,
sure,
as you pointed out the other day, look where they were and look where they are. That's a huge amount of progress.
They're the 5th seed in the East right now.
Right. Well, yeah.
Still, I mean, I know there's a lot to go and everybody's bunched up, but they're the 5th right now. They're at 500. They've won 18 games, which I think was the total they won in the last 3 seasons combined.
Combined, right? Yeah.
And they're not the worst team in New York anymore.
Yeah.
Well,
now, I also heard some cautionary stats, which I was driving and working, so I have to sort of what's the word I'm looking for? Where you kind of say what somebody said. Paraphrasing. They were talking about the Knicks and some of the teams they've beaten and how a number of them were shooting well below NBA average and even those teams average, particularly from three-point land. Mm-hmm. So they were saying a lot of these teams look, the Knicks are winning these games, but they're like some of these teams are shooting terribly, especially from downtown against.
I think a lot of that has to do with the Knicks defense.
I was going to say, that's
they're saying
the Knicks defense.
But even beyond that, these were just numbers that were out of whack. I mean, unless the Knicks are
the best defensive team point wise in the NBA,
right? But they're also have played a number of teams that, again, yes, some of it is because of their defense, but they're not that good at defense. So it was just a cautionary tale. In other words, the point this guy was making was they're not a fantastic team. They're up and coming. They're good. They're young.
They're good.
They're youthful and energetic. But this doesn't mean, because you get a lot of the callers like, oh, they're ready to, win it next year. They just need one guy. And he was saying, just hold your horses. They've had a nice streak, but
they're ready to acquire a mid-level free agent.
Yeah,
that's what they're ready for.
Exactly.
Finally,
yeah. After all these years.
Well, they're worthy of it now.
Right.
Yeah.
They're finally attractive for a mid-level free agent.
But you get one of those, and then you have greater success, and then you bring in a little higher level free agent.
They need a top-notch too.
That's true.
And there's a couple of them out there, and I think it's why I don't want Washington to play well.
There you go. Yeah, this is true. They're, as of the other night anyway, they're the third best in the league shooting threes.
Well, that's another, to Pete's point, they don't take a lot of them. So they need somebody who could shoot the three. They're third best percentage-wise, but they don't take a lot of them.
Right.
I mean, they take more. Everybody takes a lot, but relatively speaking.
Right.
And that's because they're a team of 75. I don't know if I'm a 3 or 4 power forward. And one point tweeners. And Austin Rivers.
Got a lot of tweeners on that team.
Kevin Knox, you want to shoot a 3 today? No. Nope. No, I don't.
Not going to do that. Not going to do that.
But the other point this person made was, listen, just enjoy the ride.
Yeah.
I do like watching them because they're not matadors like the rest of the NBA. Right. Look, they're 12 points better on the defensive side than the Nets in what they give up points per game right now.
Right.
I mean, that's a big difference. Now, granted, the Nets are plus 4.5. They score a lot of points. I get it. But defense is still an important part of this game. And the fact that they're giving up 104 points a game when everybody else is 114, 120, 119, 111, 112, 112, 113, 114, 112. You get my point.
Yeah. They're the only team playing defense.
Yes.
So
they need a scorer. They need somebody to help Randall. They need, if Randall could become their second option, if they could truly get, or 1B, let's call it, right. Then they could be a good team, especially with the development. I think RJ Barrett's gotten a lot better this year. I think Quickly is going to become a better player. I think they have some depth, and I think they match up. They have some options to match up on the defensive side, but they need somebody that. I mean, imagine how good Randall would be if he has another threat from the outside. That's just going to open him up in the lane even more.
Sure, absolutely. The Post actually had an article yesterday about speaking about last night's game with the loss to the Spurs, and it says the headline was, "The Knicks produced a rare clunker Tuesday night." For us to come this far this year, for them to, I know it's the Post, but for them to say the Knicks produced a rare clunker, I mean, that's all they produced for the last 6 years.
Right, and they've had a few clunkers this year. Look, they lost to a good Spurs team, that gave the Nets a battle. A Spurs team that's 18-13, and is 7-3 in their last 10. I mean, you got to consider Pop for Coach of the Year too. I mean, that he's not dripping in riches over there in San Antonio, and he's playing in the West, and he's the number 5 seed in the West right now.
Right.
So,
are you saying that Lonnie Walker IV and Patty Mills and DeMar DeRozan and LaMarcus Aldridge are not as good as some of these other crews?
Those are pretty good.
I mean, they're okay. If they had their pick of the candy jar for the top 20, they'd be putting 2 hands in.
This is true.
Yeah, no. I mean, they're doing a lot with less. That's for sure.
Yeah, the 92 Knicks were not quite as good as the 92 Knicks, as my sister is saying, they played pretty good defense, but so did everybody in the East at that time.
Yeah, it was a good defense.
It was a good old fashioned bloodbath.
And girls basketball too. Sure.
Yeah.
Her point.
Yeah. Now, what's also going to be interesting is we're going to look at see how I think the Knicks' second half schedule is a little bit tougher than their first half. That's what I heard the other day. So
they're playing the Buccaneers and the Rams and the Seahawks.
Yeah, sure.
They're playing the 87 Lakers.
So they're going to be tested a little bit more.
Yeah. They're playing George Gervin's Spurs in the second half. They're going
got a nice
going back in time.
They got a nice West Coast trip coming up.
A long West Coast trip?
Yeah, I think so. I don't know.
Look, it's going to be hard for the Knicks to stay in if they make the playoffs, then this season is a complete success. And they might. If I had to bet on it, I would say I just think there's teams that have been so bad in the first half in the East that are better teams. Miami's Miami's going to get on a heater.
Miami's better than the record. Yeah, of course.
Is Charlotte better? No, but I think Indiana is. And I think, if the Wizards keep playing the way they are, even though they're 4 games behind them, they might catch them. Who knows?
Who knows? Look, it's going to be a win-win if the Knicks even just make the 8th seed.
Even if they lose the rest of their games this year, it's a win.
Right.
I mean, they're already better than they were last year.
Yeah, exactly. They can stop playing right now. They're done.
I think you can see that Thibodeau has these guys bought into what it is that he's preaching. Tom Thibodeau, though, has never been able to take the Tom Thibodeau way and win a championship, or even get close to winning a championship.
Yeah, maybe that'll change in the next year or 2 or 3 or whatever. Yeah. We'll see.
We shall see.
We shall. And the Bucks actually grabbed a player off the G League from the Knicks too today. Miles Powell, old Seton Hall guy.
Milwaukee. I mean, they lost to Denver. They got walloped by Denver last night, but the Bucks they're still they're 21-14. It's just every year they're just such a good regular season team. I just want Giannis to get a Robin. Get him. I mean, Drew Holiday's good, but it's just like seems like whoever goes there just can't really deliver.
Yeah, it's not Drew Holiday is not the number 2 that I think they were hoping for.
Right.
And now, of course, Giannis is locked in with a long-term deal.
I think Giannis is happy about that. I mean, again, I really can't see him fitting. I mean, there's a couple teams I could see him playing on, but I don't think he's going to do any better than being on the Bucks. I can't pick. I mean, maybe 5 years from now, when he can't jump, he can become the new. I don't even know who's the guy who went to the Spurs and learned how to shoot a jump shot and won a championship. I mean, I could see him maybe ending his career somewhere else, but for right now, he's one of the top 4 or 5 players in the NBA and a perennial MVP candidate. So put one more player around him.
Well, that's just the thing. If they don't give him, that one piece, and he's a perennial also-ran.
They're trying. They just, again,
they didn't get it right this time.
In this NBA, it's just like, I'm going to, we thought we were doing our best, but it's up to the players. Wherever the fuck they want to go.
Well, let
them create their super team. Giannis hasn't done a good enough job of recruiting.
Well, that's the thing. They're going to have to bring somebody in. There's nobody who wants to go. No superstar wants to go to Milwaukee.
You don't think so?
I don't think so.
To win a championship, why not?
I mean, the long line of Sidney Moncrief and Buck Williams. Come on.
But they might have played it differently in the offseason had they had an inkling that James Harden was going to end up on the Nets.
Well, James Harden always knew he was going to go to the Nets. Yeah.
Well, he knew, but I don't think the Bucks knew for sure that. They were like, Drew Holiday. We'll bring in Drew Holiday, and that'll be, and then we'll be right there. And we got to compete with Durant and Kyrie, but Kyrie's a flake, and Durant's hurt all the time, so we got as good a shot. Oh, who? James Harden. Had they known that, they might have gone out and gotten somebody else.
Somebody else, right? Yeah, exactly.
But Harden, I think, was more sure than anyone else of where he was going. But
looking at the standings here, in the last 10 games, the 2 teams that have the best record in the last 10 games are the Nets and the Knicks.
And San Antonio and Utah.
No, in the East, I said.
No, in the East.
Yeah. In the East, and Washington too, but Washington and the Knicks have the same.
Well, the Nets are 9-1. Yeah, I mean
9-1, and Knicks and the Wizards are 7-3. Yeah.
Wizards are on a heater. I'm telling you, Westbrook and Beal, they're a good backcourt together.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah. Well, look, the Knicks have got playing the Nets on the 15th, and then they got the Sixers. A couple games against the Sixers. And then back to back against the Wizards. That's going to be. Here's an interesting stretch of games. Nets on the 15th, Sixers on the 16th. You got the Magic on the 18th, and the Sixers again 3 days later, and then back to back against Washington, and then the Bucks.
So they're going to win. They're going to win one.
They're going to win one game.
7 games.
But that could be an.
No, they'll steal another one. They'll steal another one.
That's what I'm saying. They'll win one of those next. What is that? 6 or 7 that you rattle up. They'll win one of those 7. They'll split with the Wizards, and they'll lose the rest, and that they'll be out of the playoff hunt. That's what I'm saying. I mean, the Knicks are at the point where they're not going to beat a team that's better than them on a night in and night out basis.
Then they got Miami and they got Minnesota.
They'll beat Minnesota. I don't think they beat Miami.
They got the Dallas Mavericks and then the Pistons. So they could win.
Yeah,
they could win 3 out of those 4.
Right. I think they'll steal another one of those 7 games too. I think they'll go 2-5 in that 7-game stretch.
I think it's still going to be hard for them to stay in the playoff hunt, but for right now, you celebrate it.
Right.
Yeah, and look, I think we've said before, if you end up within a couple of games of 500,
that's what we said.
Right? That's a successful season.
If they shoot 400 this year, if they win 4 out of the 4 out of every 10 games, it's a major success.
Yeah,
and that's probably where they'll wind up.
Well, we'll certainly see how that pans out. The All-Star game is this Sunday.
Remember when All-Star games? I believe
that is spelled PFFT.
Remember when All-Star games were like amazing because you would get to see like Walter Davis for the first time all year, or George Gervin, or now it's just like God. Nobody plays in them, so it's
you see what they're doing though, right? You see what they're doing. They're not. It's not All-Star weekend. Everything's on Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
What are they doing?
The skills challenge and the 3-point contest are gonna happen before the game, and then the slam dunk contest is gonna happen during halftime.
I think they should all have to play at one time an old timer. I think somebody who played in the 90s or before needs to be on the court at all times playing on your team.
Right.
Yeah.
That'd be interesting.
What happens if somebody gets hurt in the dunk contest?
And they get hurt. Has anybody ever gotten hurt in the dunk contest?
I don't know.
Surprisingly.
I guess not.
Yeah.
You would think that somebody would, roll an ankle or something. But
didn't Blake Griffin jump over a car or something like that?
Yeah, he broke the mirror on the car, but not his. Didn't do anything.
But he was fine.
He jumped the shark and he was fine.
Jumped the shark.
Yeah. Even now, it's just like I don't know. You should just have only Muggsy Bogues type players in the dunk contest.
I thought you were going to say only Muggsy Bogues.
Who's even in the dunk contest?
Who knows? Yeah, who knows?
Yeah. Let's look that up.
It was going to be Tiger Woods, but
only short players: Muggsy Bogues, Sam Cassell.
Then he went for a drive, and that dream died.
I don't mean to be insensitive, but the reason why you saw his luggage out next to his car is because he gave his caddy the day off.
Here we go.
Is that right? Are you checking? We should have a
I hate YouTube. You stink.
YouTube? What are you looking for?
I didn't want
Laverne and Shirley.
No, I clicked on the wrong link.
I clicked on the wrong link. How do you make it blue?
All right, let's see who's in the
looking for Laverne and Shirley.
Well, I always watch TV during the
show. The best of Ed Asner.
On the Odd Couple theme is playing.
Something's got to keep me. Something got to.
Yes, the White Shadow.
Right.
So top the 3-point contest is Steph Curry, Devin Booker, Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, Donovan Mitchell, and Zach LaVine.
And Zach Galifianakis.
Skills competition is Luka, Chris Paul, Julius Randle, Sabonis, Vukcevic, and Portland's Robert Covington. There we go. Who?
Is that his official name? Portland's Robert Covington?
That's right. Yeah. He's the official ambassador.
Portland's Robert Covington.
That's right.
And let's see. Slam dunk. Anthony Simmons.
What are you doing? Waiting for the facts to come out of the machine?
No, it's not. It's poorly written. They don't actually have a list.
It's not listed. You got to scroll through the
Anthony Simmons, Cassius Stanley, Obi Toppin, and some other guys. I guess. Good job, LA Times.
There you go.
Some other guys.
Toppin's in the slam dunk competition.
I think all the owners should be in the slam dunk competition.
There you go. All the owners have to dunk.
Or the mascots. How come the mascots aren't in the slam dunk?
That's not a bad idea, actually.
Yeah, that's a really good idea.
That'd be
all
fun.
right. So what do we think the over under is for the All-Star game?
Total points?
Yeah.
730.
Will they hit
300? 346.
Will they hit 300?
Oh, yeah.
You think so? I don't know.
Yeah, they'll hit.
Isn't
it usually like 173, 174, 2?
I like the 346 number. That's a good number.
It's probably close, right?
I'm going to say they might even hit 350. It might hit 350. It might just do that.
I think it's going to be.
Are you asking the Magic 8 Ball?
I think it's going to be less.
Less? So like 348?
Not. Yeah. I'll bid 348, Drew. Dick. I think it's going to be around. I'd be surprised if it was a lot more than 300. I'll say 312 or less.
Okay,
would be my pick.
All right.
Let's see what the coin says.
See what the coin says. Are we signing numbers to the coin, or are we just going to say heads or tails?
Let's see. Coin says tails.
What does Marie Kondo say? I can't find the over under. They don't have it yet.
Let's ask her.
How come they don't have it?
They don't have the over under? It's got to be in there. No? That's crazy. Nothing. 0.
Well, let's see.
No,
they don't have 2021 up here. Oh, well. All right. What else do we got?
Over, under.
Boom, 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 boom. Here we go. Oh, that's 2020.
Yeah.
No, you're right. They have the 2020 Gambler's Guide.
Yeah, we go. Can I place a bet on that still?
There you go. Yeah, all it has is the.
Yeah, they don't have it yet
because
they don't know who's going to play.
Yeah, exactly.
Last
year's was 307.5. Last year.
Yeah.
Just for measurement.
We'll have our own over under. So 320 is that what we're going to say?
Well, you said 346. I said it could be over 350, and Pete said 312.
If it's 346, I'll say under, but not by much.
All right. So let's go over 312, under 346.
All right, Vanna.
write that down. Jot that down.
Who wins the jet ski?
Who wins the jet ski? Nobody's claimed the yoga pants yet, so we have to put them back on the market.
Yeah, that's right.
There you go. Well,
I gotta wash them first.
So which teams in the East, which team in the West that is not currently in the playoffs will be in the playoffs?
East, I'm going to say Wizards. West, I'm going to say nobody. They're all in.
You don't think Dallas is going to get in?
Maybe Dallas. Of any of the ones that aren't, Dallas has the best shot, I think.
How many teams are going in?
8.
8 from each. 8 and 8.
So right now in the East, the Charlotte Hornets are the 8th seed.
They are.
Oy.
Name a Charlotte Hornet.
Jerry Seinfeld.
I can name the owner. Jerry Seinfeld. Is he playing
from the Bee movie, right?
Right. Yeah.
He wasn't a hornet though.
He was a honeybee. He was a honeybee, right?
Out west, I don't know that. The Pelicans have got Zion,
and they're not going to make it.
No. They've been doing everything. I heard this today. He's been like the point guard. Everything is running directly through him. He's touching the ball all the time. Their points per game are up. Their shooting percentage is up. They're like, he's the best player on the team, so just give him the ball all the time.
Right.
I don't know if they have enough to get. I mean, they're only 4 games under 500.
Yeah,
they're which is whatever 4 games behind. Boy, that's.
I still say
like, out west. I don't know. There's nobody. I would say Dallas.
Dallas is really the only team that's not in the top 8 right now in the West that has a shot is Dallas.
Yeah, and there are a couple games out in the East.
And Washington, of the 9 through 15 teams.
I don't know. They're not going to play as well as they have.
I think they're the best shot so far out of those teams. Right?
I think the Pacers still have a chance to sneak in there over Charlotte. Although Charlotte's got, I think they have 2 All-Stars. It isn't what's his name, LaMelo Ball and
LaMelo Ball is down there.
Terry Rozier.
Yeah, and LaMelo is playing some real good ball right now.
Yeah,
he's playing all-star kind of ball right now.
He's one of the best point guards in the league right now.
And they got Bismack Biyombo.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't want to forget about him.
No, I ordered that the other day. It was supersized. It was really good.
Yeah.
Bismack Biyombo.
It was a Korean drive-thru. Take that Bismack Biyombo combo.
There you go.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, Washington's got a long way to go.
Yeah.
They've got a long way to go.
They got a long way to go.
And they're going to have to. I mean, I think the Pacers.
The only reason why I agree with John on the Wizards is they seem to be able to beat the good teams. They're beating the good teams right now, but we'll see. I mean, who knows it? How many more games do we have in the second half?
30? Everybody at 34, 35, 36, 24 games, 24 games, 25 games, 23 games, somewhere in there.
So they're going to have to play. They're going to have to, obviously play the teams that are like the Pacers and the Hornets a couple of times that are directly ahead of them. They're really going to have to win those games,
right?
Because Charlotte's 2 games under and the Pacers are 3 games under. So if they kind of maintain their pace. Washington's got to win, 4 out of every 5 to kind of catch up over the next couple of weeks.
True. That is true.
It's a tall order, but yeah, certainly from the way they've looked and as far as the players go, you would think.
But there's a number of those teams that are not going to keep up at that pace, so that drops them down. They don't have to, 4 out of every 5, for the rest.
Yeah, no, that's true. That's true.
So. Knicks being one of them. So
how many games total?
Well, the Knicks have 24 games left.
No, but how many games in the season?
60.
60.
Let's take a look at the Washington Wizards.
Wizards have played.
Yeah,
Wizards have 27 games left. The Knicks only have 24 games left.
I still say with my original prediction, I think the Knicks are going to win 35 games. I think they'll win between 15 and 17 games in the second half of the season.
Okay. That's fair. And that, that probably is enough to get them the 7th or 8th seed. Maybe even the 6th.
Yeah, right? I mean, the Wizards have gone on a nice
They've looked good
run here. They beat the Lakers. They beat
everybody's beating the Lakers.
They lost to the Clipper. Yeah, right. It's the no AD.
Right.
But then they lost to the Celtics, although it was only by a point. And then they lost to the Grizzlies. They just got blown out by the Grizzlies yesterday.
Yeah.
So they got the Clippers, they got the Grizzlies, they got the Sixers back to back against the Bucks.
Right.
Then the Kings, then the Jazz, and the Nets. 2 games against the Knicks towards the end of March. So they got a few tough games in there. That's what I mean. They're gonna have to have a considerably better winning percentage.
Sure.
Even if the Pacers and the Hornets just kind of ramble along at what they're doing. Hard to think they would fall off the table and go.
Right.
Charlotte's not going to go 10 games under 500 over the next dozen games.
Right.
So it's a tall order for Washington to catch up as good as they've been playing.
As it stands right now, Jazz Warriors first round playoff matchup.
That would be interesting.
That would be interesting. That would definitely be interesting.
I mean, you could arguably say that the Warriors have a chance in that series to beat the team that probably will wind up with the best record in the NBA this year.
Yeah. The quick aside, the Nets are leading the Rockets by 12 points now. Just scored 56-44.
And the Jazz are beating the Sixers by 6.
Jazz are beating the Sixers by 6. I got 3 here. What score you got there?
I got, I just switched 75-72.
There you go, yeah. So, by 3.
It's funny. The Sixers struggle when there's actually a center on the other team.
Yeah, that's a true story. Anyway, well,
look, Embiid's only got
24 points.
Is that all?
Yeah, that's all. Oh, yeah, there it is.
24 points. Yeah.
Yeah.
Harden's only got the Nets are winning by 11 points, 58-47. Harden's the lead scorer, 12 points. So the ball's moving around a bit.
Yeah, he's doing what he's doing.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, they're beating the 11-22 Rockets.
Listen, this is the kind of, probably not the Rockets, but they're the Nets. We've seen them play down to their competition a number of times here, and that's if they can cut that by in half the number of times they do that. Right. That's a huge difference in where they're going to end up at the end of the season.
Sure. Yeah.
Well, all right.
On that note, why don't we get to our on the basketball note? Why don't we get to our top 10s?
Top 10s.
Our top 10s. Our top 10 list this week, folks.
Top 12
is actually a top 11. That's the top 10 list this week is top 10 small forwards in NBA history. And yes, indeed, we have a tie. We had a tie at 9th, so there's actually 11.
Very interesting.
We have a 9A and 9B. Harry, why don't you start us off with number 10?
Number 10 is none other than Mr. Rick Barry. And, Rick Barry started in the ABA, came to the NBA, best known for one of the best seasons in the history of the NBA when he won a championship with the then was it the Oakland or were they the San Francisco Warriors? They were Golden State. He started off with the San Francisco Warriors, then
they changed
played for the Nets for a while, the New York Nets, then Golden State, and ended his career at the Houston Rockets. Look, 1975, the Warriors upset a team that won 60 games that year with Wes Unseld and Elvin Hayes, and he had one of the best seasons I think anybody's ever had as a small forward. He was an NBA champion in 1975, won the NBA Finals MVP. He was an ABA champion in 1969, an 8-time All-Star, All-Star Game MVP, 5-time All-NBA first team. And he averaged 24.8 points per game, scored over 25,000 points, averaged almost 7 rebounds and 5 assists a game. And I think he gets lost in the mix a lot, but he was a guy from a New Jersey boy from Elizabeth, New Jersey. He's a Hall of Famer and probably best known as the father of Brent, John, Drew, Scooter, Canyon, Molehill. I don't know. I think he's got 27 sons or something like that. They can all shoot 3-pointers really well. Rick Barry, just one of the greats.
There he is. Number 10.
Didn't one of his kids win the dunk contest one year?
Probably Muggsy Bogues.
That's
his stepson.
It's his stepson on his on the one side, right?
Yeah.
So, anyway, on that note, number 10, Rick Barry.
I guess I'm wrong about that.
Who knows?
That was.
We'll have to check.
I don't think a Barry has ever won a dunk contest. At least they shouldn't have.
There you go.
All right, now I'm gonna have to look that up, but not right now.
Not right now, because you're going to bring us to number 9B.
And I'm going to talk about 9B.
9B.
He was not from England, but he was Alex English.
Yes, he was.
Talk about a guy that maybe a lot of people don't know about. Over 20 points a game, 50% from the field, and only 21.7% from the 3-point range. But
no, they didn't exist when he first started.
Right. But still, when they started keeping that stat, he wasn't exactly lighting it up from outside the arc. So, 5.5 rebounds and 3.5 assists, and about a steal a game. 8-time All-Star and 3-time All-NBA scoring champ in 82 and 83, leading the league with 28.4 points per game, and played the bulk of his career, 11 seasons with Denver and a couple seasons with Milwaukee and Indiana, and I think 1 year with Dallas as well. Durable guy, rarely missed games.
He was great.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah,
the nickname's The Blade, one of the great nicknames of all time, and Flick.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. 6'7"
guy.
Yes,
he was a
adorable guy.
He was a wing player.
He was cute.
He was adorable. I think he's best nugget of all time. I mean, somebody might take that crown from him, but I think a lot of people would tell you he's the best nugget of all time.
Yeah, when he became a starter with Denver, let's see here. Okay. Yeah. He basically started every single game.
Yeah.
Between 1981 and 1990.
Some good Denver teams. You know, I mean, had David Thompson not run into the problems that he ran into, those two together were one of the best duos in the NBA for a couple seasons there. And he kind of straddled the Fat Lever and Issel and era of Denver. He's just one of the best.
Yeah.
Alex English, 9B on our list.
9B, Alex English. I will take number 9A. Number 9A is Adrian Dantley.
Same era.
Later. Adrian Delano Dantley. The whole middle name thing there. He's the first-round pick, 6th overall, by the Buffalo Braves in 1976. Played a season there, went to the Pacers for a brief stint, and then made it to the Lakers. Then he got to the Jazz. Played on the Jazz, the Pistons for Jazz for 7 seasons. The Pistons for a few, down to the Mavericks for a season, the Bucks for a season. And then he was an assistant coach with the Nuggets for 8 seasons, 9 seasons, something like that. But 6-time NBA All-Star, 80 through 82 and 84 through 86. 2-time NBA All-NBA second team. NBA Comeback Player of the Year in 84. NBA Rookie of the Year in 77. He made the All-Rookie team in 77. 2-time NBA Scoring Champion in 81 and 84. His number 4 is retired by the Jazz. 23,177 points in his career stats. 24.3 points per game. He had 5,455 rebounds and 2,830 assists. He was a great low post scorer.
Yeah, undersized too, kind of a small forward, and one of the best post players.
Crazy, and a great scoring record too. I mean, he shot 54% from the field for his career.
Baseline turnaround.
Yeah, it was insane. Powerful explosiveness, crazy. Just unstoppable from the perimeter. Crazy good player, but there you go. No championships though, unfortunately.
No,
nobody on the Jazz has any championships.
Well, they played on 90 other teams. They might have picked one up here and there.
Yeah,
but
a lot of these guys don't have championships.
By the way, the Barry that I was referring to before was Brent Barry.
Brent Barry,
who won the NBA Slam Dunk Contest in 1996.
That tells you that we're not getting the cream of the crop in the Slam Dunk Contest.
Well,
Brent Barry's
Brent Barry, Rick Barry's kids, and I'm pretty sure he did it without taking off his sweatpants.
He did it with no shoes,
and a blindfold.
That's right,
blindfold, sweatpants on, and barefoot.
He was competing against.
He was wearing socks that made it even harder.
Roseanne Barr and Webster.
It was Roseanne Barr. No, but
who else was in it?
It was Roseanne Barr and Webster. Webster was on Roseanne Barr.
Yeah.
All right.
So let's not start rumors.
Anyway, on that note, number 9A was Adrian Dantley. Mr. Harry Lug Nutz, will you please let us know who number 8 is?
Number 8 is none other than one of the best players in the NBA currently, right now. 2-time NBA champion, the Claw, Kawhi Leonard. Kawhi Leonard, I mean, look, I was totally sad when he left the Spurs because I really thought that Spurs team had a chance to dethrone the Golden State Warriors, but went on to Toronto, won one of the, most exciting, I think, championships and one of the biggest upsets in the last few years, and then said goodbye to Toronto to come back to LA and play for the Clippers. And I think he's got something to prove. He's when you talk about guys who playing both sides of the ball, when you talk offense and defense together, he might be at the top of this list. And at the end of the day, who knows where he's going to be? But Kawhi Leonard's one of the top 3 or 4 basketball players, I think, in the NBA right now. And there's been years where I think he was the best player in the league. He's a 2-time NBA champion, 2-time NBA Finals MVP, 5-time All-Star, NBA All-Star Game MVP, 3-time All-Defensive Team, 2-time NBA Defensive Player of the Year. I mean, right now what it's going to be is, can Kawhi, with this move to the Clippers, can he compete with what's going on in LA and not only overtake the Lakers, but can Kawhi and Paul George, can Kawhi do what Kawhi does and beat a loaded Lakers and Brooklyn Nets team? Who knows? But if I'm starting an NBA team today, he's certainly one of the top 2 or 3 guys that are going to be picked first. He's an interesting player in that he always looks like he's moving slower than he actually is, but he's so methodical and so good and so strong. He's a small forward who's kind of moved the forward out to the wing position. He can play down low. He can go to the basket. He can cover pretty much almost any position on the court, and he does at times. And I think he's still the best defensive player in the NBA right now. And by the way, he just happens to, when he needs to, he can average 25 and 10. So there you go, Mr. Kawhi Leonard. Two rings and counting.
2 rings and counting. Will there be a 3rd? Or a 4th, for that matter?
I'll probably join the Nets next year.
There you go. Oh, well, why not?
Yeah, sure.
Or maybe he goes to Milwaukee and averages that out. So, anyway, number 8, Kawhi Leonard. Pete, let us know who number 7 is.
Number 7, well loved by fans everywhere, really, because...
Sure, why not?
Well, no, not because necessarily of his personality. Oh, that might have something to do with it. But I did love him in the and there was I think it was a 30 for 30 about Scotty or something like that. Kind of a misunderstood guy. Scottie Pippen is what we're talking about. The reason he was not liked by fans everywhere was because he was on some teams that were pretty good when the Bulls were winning all of those championships. 6 of them, in fact, for Scotty. 7 times an All-Star and 10 times an All-Defensive Player. The ultimate wingman, the ultimate Robin, if you will, to Michael Jordan's Batman. And Steals champion in 1994 and 95, 7 times an All-NBA. And what can you say about Scottie Pippen?
I could say a lot, but I'm trying to be nice.
Yeah, now listen, he couldn't win without Jordan, but he was, like I said, he was the perfect second fiddle, so to speak. 16.1 points per game, played 1,178 games, 47% from the field, 32 from behind the arc, 6.4 rebounds, 5.2 assists, and a couple of steals every game.
He's one of the best. He's one of the best, if not, some would argue he was the best defensive player of all time. He was. Yeah. He was for years. He was reinvented defense in a lot of ways, especially on that team where he was able to kind of be a really influential off the ball defender. Right. And, he's got the rings, I think a lot of times we like to have the story of, Jordan did it with no one. And I don't know, Horace Grant, Dennis Rodman, Scottie Pippen, Steve Kerr, B.J. Armstrong. Give any of those to Patrick Ewing, and I think he'd be happy to see them. I think Patrick Ewing would be really happy to have Scottie Pippen for 4 or 5 years. Scottie Pippen he's one of those guys, much like an Andre Iguodala today or a Draymond Green, where his numbers didn't ever match up to what he actually did on the court. And I hate the Bulls. And I think Scottie Pippen is one of the most unlikable superstars ever to play any sport. but he was that he had an incredibly high basketball IQ. And with the exception of a couple instances where I think he punked out a little bit in the clutch and was a little bit of a prima donna, he was, he was one of the top 3 or 4 basketball players on the court at any given time in any game. And he always was there. Just the amount of playoff games that they won is just staggering.
Yeah. And those instances that you mentioned, not refusing to come in the game at the end of the game, because the shot wasn't for him. Those things loom large, and that's what everybody remembers.
You remember that stuff, yeah.
And what else you might say about Scott, if you really don't kind of go do a little bit of a deep dive, is you kind of go, oh yeah, he was Michael Jordan's, number 2, and he was good, but he really was better than good. Although again, the numbers don't necessarily look. You could look at them and go, oh yeah, these are nice numbers, but what he meant to that team, and Michael didn't win anything before Scotty came along.
Well, and Scotty kind of worked himself up. I mean, I don't know when he went in the draft, but I don't think it was super high, if my memory serves me correct.
No, it was not.
Wasn't he a 4th or 5th round pick or something like that?
Yeah, he was not heavily recruited, but out of high school either.
And he was a little rough around the edges, and he was one of those guys where, like, where does he play? But he was also at times on a lot of what people don't realize on a lot of these Bulls teams is they didn't really have a conventional point guard. And yeah, there were times when Jordan was bringing the ball up the court, but a lot of times it was Scottie Pippen who the offense ran through. And so he was kind of like a point forward, and he was able to dominate guys who were smaller than him. And he was a good enough, skilled enough, and smart enough player to play against a lot of guys who were bigger than him at that time. And he was just he always had the ball in his hand. Whenever if it wasn't Jordan, it was Pippen who was coming up with a big steal or a great pass or an offensive rebound when you needed it.
Yeah.
And he was a clutch player for all the things that people focus on. He was a clutch player.
And again, listen, 16 points a game is nothing to sneeze at.
No.
And it was, I think his years in Chicago was 17.7 per game. So, that's
in a league where you won 85 to 83.
Right.
Sure.
And on teams that, with the exception of a couple of years, had Michael Jordan.
Right.
Putting up 30 plus every night too. So, there's only so many points to go around.
Oh, by the way, in the 2 seasons when Jordan wasn't there, he was a little bit of some crazy luck for Allen Houston and for Grandmama away from going to the NBA Finals.
Right.
So,
right.
He's one of those guys who you just, he's like Pedro Martinez to me. He's just in that same camp.
Yeah, you just don't grudgingly have to
they
go. Were really good.
Yeah, again.
Yeah.
They always seem to come out on top. And that's Scottie Pippen. And he knows basketball. He's a smart basketball player. I mean, he's always in the right position, could get in people's heads better than Jordan.
And maybe the greatest voice ever in the NBA.
Well, yeah.
I mean, it's just so far down.
That's right.
It's pretty amazing. The documentary about him was I was stunned to just hear him.
Is the documentary just on Pippen?
Maybe it was...
Or was it part of that whole Bulls?
It might have been. I guess maybe it was part of the Bulls thing.
Yeah. He's obviously a big part of that.
Yeah. I guess that's probably what it was. But yeah, it was considerable. Telling his whole story from coming up out of high school and through college and stuff. But man, with that voice is just so down low.
It's kind of low, yeah.
Way low.
Way low.
So there we go. Number 7, Scottie Pippen.
Number 7,
the man we all hate because he
won.
Yeah, because he won against our teams.
Because he won against our teams. There you go.
He wasn't Mr. Personality, It's not like he was ever going to charm anybody.
No.
He wasn't Shaq or Barkley. Let's put it that
way. Number 7, Scottie Pippen. All right, I'll take number 6. Number 6 is Mr. John Joseph Havlicek. John Havlicek, folks. There he is, right there. 7th overall pick in the first round, 1962 draft, selected by the Boston Celtics. Played his entire career with the Boston Celtics. He was an 8-time NBA champion. 63 through 66, again in 68, 69, 74, and 76. His finals MVP in 74. 13-time NBA All-Star, folks. 13 years in a row, 66 through 78. 4-time All-NBA first team. 7-time All-NBA second team. 5-time All-NBA defensive first team. 3-time All-NBA defensive second team. He was on the All-Rookie first team in 63. His number 17 is retired by the Boston Celtics. Remember the 35th anniversary team, the 50th anniversary team. He is in the Basketball Hall of Fame. He's also in the College Hall of Fame. Folks, he's one of 4 players to have won 8 championships in their playing careers. Only his teammates Bill Russell and Sam Jones won more. Russell won 11 and Jones won 10. But Havlicek is also one of 3 NBA players with an unsurpassed 8-0 NBA Finals record. One of the most dominant players on the court that, in terms of winning in the NBA.
He was pretty good.
Yeah, just a bit. His scoring ability was exceptional.
Never won the slam dunk contest though.
He's one of the best players to ever win.
Although he came in second year, Brent Barry won it.
He did come in second, but he was also 80 at the time.
That's right. That's the part of the joke that you shouldn't have to say.
There you go.
Well, and I'm looking up stuff about the '96 contest, and all I keep seeing is lists like the 5 worst slam dunk contests ever.
Yeah, they actually had a trampoline,
and that was it.
The basket.
Well, let's give
the not so popular 1996 NBA dunk contest is mainly known for 2 things. Number 1 is Brent Barry. It just sounds ominous.
And there you have it. Well, I mean, Havlicek was definitely one of the best players to ever wear a Celtics uniform. Along with somebody else on this list too.
And there might be another Celtic on this list.
That's a pretty juicy list too.
That's a pretty juicy list too.
Great Celtics and Havlicek.
Well, there's a third Celtic that could have been close on this list too. That isn't on the list, but
True.
Sure.
And, anyway, so he just amazing. 74 Finals MVP, 13-time All-Star, 11-time All-NBA selection, 8-time All-Defensive Team selection, Hall of Famer. Just insane. He passed away a couple years ago.
Yeah, and every old racist dude in Boston wears his jersey.
Anyway, on that note, number 6, John Havlicek. Harry, why don't you tell us who number 5 is?
Number 5 is none other than Mr. Kevin Durant. Just a 6'10" small forward. Again, another guy who's, I think, right smack dab in the middle of his career, was drafted by ladies and gentlemen, the Seattle Supersonics. But 2-time NBA champion, 2-time NBA Finals MVP, most valuable player in 2014. I can't believe he's been in the league this long already. He's 11-time NBA All-Star,
sure.
2-time All-Star Game MVP, and he's already been a 6-time All-NBA first team, 3-time second team, Rookie of the Year. I mean, he's sort of, when you look at small forward and you think about small forward, there's guys who have kind of changed the position. And Durant's certainly one of those guys. I mean, he is maybe the most efficient shooting scorer in the history of the NBA. And if he can stay healthy, he'll probably be number 1 on this list at some point if he wants to, or at least number 2 or 3. And I think when he's healthy, he is the best player in the NBA right now. And that's saying a lot because there's a lot of good players, but he's just that good of an all-around. He spreads the floor like nobody else. He's a matchup nightmare. He's a great shooter and really efficient. He's a guy who can play on teams with other good players on them. And I don't know what his career scoring average is, but I'm guessing as far as efficiency goes, he's got to be at the top of the list. I mean, he probably scores more points on the fewest shots in the history of the NBA. He's that good. And he's had some serious injuries over the last 3 or 4 years, and we'll see if he can stay healthy. But he has a very good chance this year to add a third championship to his team. He didn't want to be known as a guy who was a bandwagon guy who went to these super teams to win championships. So he went to the Nets. And then he realized, maybe we'll add James Harden to the mix.
Why not? Why? What the hell?
But, regardless of all of that, I think he's one of those guys who you put him on any team. And he's also one of those guys who I think if you put him back in the days of, he would still dominate. He's one of those guys who I think would translate into almost any time in the NBA. And much like Magic Johnson did to the point guard position, I think he's sort of done it to the small forward position. He's one of the best, and he's still going strong. And we'll see just where his career ends up. But I hope he stays healthy because I'd like to see him win a couple more championships.
That'd be nice, and I'm sure a lot of Nets fans want to see him win a couple more championships too. So
yeah, absolutely.
6'11" small forward. He's such a an anomaly in that sense, but listen, he came to New York, and I think we've talked about this before. To younger players, Manhattan is not necessarily the place to be in New York. It doesn't have the same kind of allure and luster. Brooklyn is the hot, right? It's all
about Long Island.
Yeah, well, it's been gentrified, and it's the hot place to be. So came here and played with Kyrie.
I think if the Knicks had the Nets ownership, he would be playing in the Garden.
Well, that probably has a lot to do with it as well.
I think the reason why Durant did not go to the Knicks was because of James Dolan.
Oh, well,
I would think that would be probably the number one reason. Yeah. But I don't think he was thinking, oh man, it's New York and Broadway, because when you're in Brooklyn, you get all the best of that anyway.
Yeah,
just cross the river and you're right there.
And they have a great new arena and a better owner and the ability to pay multiple players millions of dollars.
Yeah,
exactly.
I mean, Durant is he's who else is like him in the league?
Who else has ever really been like him in the history of the NBA? Who else does
all the things that he does so well? And you're right, incredibly efficient too. And
really efficient.
Listen, I'm happy he's there. So, and if we don't, and by we, I mean me and the Nets, win a couple of championships with this combination, I may just give up on basketball altogether because if you don't win with Kevin Durant and Kyrie and James Harden,
then what are you doing?
Yeah, when are you ever going to win?
Right, exactly.
Yeah, I mean he's 32, so
he's got years left.
He's got 4, maybe 5 more years where, especially if he's on teams with other guys who can carry a little bit of the regular season load. I mean, he's also one of those guys who I don't think is going to care too much about his stats. So he could play into his late 30s. He can, but in a big game, he could still score 32 points on 15 shots.
Well, look, he went to Golden State, right? And everyone went, oh, wow, going to a team that won 70 games. But he went there and it was Steph's team.
Yeah, he got hurt. He got hurt, and that's the reason why they lost.
Right. But Durant was the man. He was the man because he was just so good. But he's always been willing to defer. There's no outlandish or outwardly visible ego with him. He just goes. He's willing to give up the ball. He's willing to do that. We need whatever needs to be done to win, and that's a great quality about him. So
he won 2 championships with. People can easily argue on one of the best teams of all time. When you look at a team that had Kevin Durant, Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, and the other cast of the Andre Iguodala's and Draymonds of the world, who are some of the best role players to ever play the game.
Well, right, you're supposed to win when you're on those teams.
Yeah, you're supposed to win.
And would have had another one if it wasn't for the greatest player ever to play the game in LeBron. So that's still a pretty good resume. But you lost one to LeBron, which is one of the great all-time NBA stories, I think.
Yeah, sure.
Right. And when Klay and him went down, that opened it up for Kawhi to and Toronto to win it.
Yeah.
It's interesting. He's one of those guys who he's not as captivating of a story as Kyrie or James Harden, or he's just one of these guys who can really score. He could do anything on the basketball court, and he makes it look really easy. And I think that's part of the problem, is he just is that good. And if he could stay healthy, there's an argument that he's the best player in the NBA. Even putting Kawhi and LeBron into that same basket, he just can do things that nobody else can do.
Yeah, I think if you look at what he's done when he's played this season, when he's been healthy, and you look at those numbers and that efficiency, you have to put him right up there with LeBron and AD. I'd probably put him over Anthony Davis.
Well, he's a 4-time scoring champion. Oh yeah, he's well over Anthony Davis, without a doubt.
So, but I mean, as far as heading into this season, talking about who's number one and who's number two, and he just, and of course he's coming from an injury when we didn't know what he was going to do, right? And we were, well, if you get 80% of KD, then you're going to have a great player. Well, people who see him and who live and breathe basketball go, yeah, you're getting way more than 80% of KD.
He's never had to play on a bad team. He's never not had one or two or three all-stars on the same team as him. And when he was with Oklahoma City, that was a stacked team that a lot of people said underperformed. Then he went to Golden State, and obviously they overperformed in a lot of ways. And now this is, in a lot of ways, Durant's team. And Kyrie and James Harden are saying, hey, I'm going to come. We're going to do what we need to do to win. I hope Durant comes back healthy, and I hope that he can really get through an entire playoff without getting hurt. And look, we all want to see the Lakers versus the Nets. Everybody does. I mean, that's the marquee matchup.
I think you would rather see the Nuggets versus the Nets, but
I'd rather it's not going to happen though.
So, well, there you go. Number 5, Kevin Durant. Peter, let us know who number 4 is.
Number 4, the only guy on this list named Elgin.
Is this true?
Elgin Baylor. You might have heard of him. You might not have. 846 games in his career, all of it with the Lakers, although the first couple of years were the Milwaukee Lakers. Before going to
the Minnesota?
The Minnesota, yeah, that's what I knew that was wrong, and I was trying to remember what the actual place was. Anyway,
one of those M's.
Yeah, it's those whatever. It's out there, and it starts with an M, so they're all the same. 27.4 points per game, 43% from the field, 3-point NA. As far as shooting percentage from 3-point range goes, because it wasn't happening. 13.5 rebounds per game. That's a big number there, right there.
Especially when he played. He played with some other guys who could rebound and grab.
Yeah, there were some guys with long legs and big hands getting rebounds too. 4.3 assists per game, 11 times an All-Star. Let me look at his accolades here. 10 times All-NBA. Rookie of the year, 58-59. Look, he had a down year in 63 and 64 when he only scored 25.4, only averaged 25.4 points per game.
Maybe the most underrated player in the history of the NBA.
This is a guy who came in, and again, 25 or per game as a rookie, 29 the next year, 34 the next year, 38 the next year, 34 the next year.
Isn't that crazy?
That's insane. And for a young player, too.
Yeah. At a time when scores were 70 to 80, 75 to 82.
Well, not quite that low, but yeah.
All right, maybe a little bit higher than that, but not 150 to 140.
No, it wasn't.
Right.
Yeah, he would drop 60 against the Nets, no problem, and still lose.
And, listen, there were seasons when he only played, between 40 and 60 some odd games, but he was pretty consistent. His numbers did suffer in some of those years. But he's just, I don't know. He's a guy that
kind of became more valuable as a veteran.
Sure.
Yeah, I think you could say that.
His teams got better too. And I think that was the one time he won a championship. Didn't he only win one championship?
I believe it was one.
Yeah. It was because back then it was the Lakers and the Knicks, the Lakers and the Celtics. It was that he played in that era when it was and you had the I think the Lakers lost to Washington one of those years.
He actually didn't win any.
He did not win a championship.
Okay, because he was not on the team with Jerry West that finally won one. He had, I think, if my memory serves me correct, he either got hurt that year or retired, like right in the beginning of that year, and then the Lakers finally won. They finally overcame it, and I think they beat Boston or the Knicks. I can't remember, but yeah. Anyway,
his final season was 71-72.
Okay. Yeah, and that was the year that I think the Bullets won, or the year after the Knicks won, and then I think the Lakers won it in 72-73.
Right.
Yeah, and he was. I mean, his last 3 seasons he played 54 games, and then he must have been hurt 2 games in 70-71, and then 9 games in 71-72, and then he retired.
Then
he retired, and then they won, which unfortunately happens to some great players sometimes. But if you're looking for somebody you want your kid to model their game after, Elgin Baylor's a pretty good choice.
Yeah,
just a little bit of a good choice.
Yeah.
There you go. All right, number 4.
Number 4 on our list.
Number 4 on our list, Elgin Baylor.
Not 4A.
Not 4A.
Certainly not 4B.
Only 4.
Number 4. Yeah.
Number 4
by himself.
The Quattro.
Yeah, the Quattro. There you go. That's his new nickname, the Quattro. I'll take number 3. Number 3 is, speaking of slam dunk competition, Mr. Slam Dunk himself.
I mean, he's no Brent Barry.
He's no Brent Barry, but then again.
Oh, yeah. By the way, some of the other members, I haven't been able to find the whole. Some of the other members of that 96.
You going into your microfiche?
BJ Armstrong.
Oh, God.
Microfiche.
He's never dunked in his life.
Michael Finley. Well, Armstrong actually did a layup in that. Right. During the dunk contest.
Michael Finley
did a layup for his dunk.
A very good small forward. Two guard. Michael Finley, good player.
And Greg Minor.
God.
So there you go.
May as well have had Greg Ostertag.
I think Minor was more known for his Nike commercial than for anything he ever did on the court.
He was more known for his bluegrass band that did one album with Warner Brothers.
So there you go.
Back to the list. Slam dunk wise, Dr.
That's
J.
That's all
folks.
I have to say about the slam dunk contest.
Dr. J, folks, is number 3 on our list. Julius Irving, Julius Winfield Irving II, to be exact. He was interesting story. He was picked 12th overall in the first round of the 72 draft. However, he was already playing in the ABA at the time for the Virginia Squires. And he was drafted by the Bucks, and had he actually gone to the Bucks, it would have been Dr. J, Oscar Robertson, and Kareem on the same team. Holy crap! Can you imagine?
Yeah, that would have been fun to watch. That's kind of like the Nets today.
Yeah. But he, that was the superstar team at the time. It would have been anyway. But he, and ironically, he was playing for the Virginia Squires. And before the draft, he signed a $1 million deal with the Atlanta Hawks. So, and then it went to a court dispute, and a judge ruled that he couldn't play for any team that wasn't the Virginia Squires, since he was already playing in the ABA. So he played, another year for the Virginia Squires, and they were financially strapped, so they traded him to the New York Nets, and there he is. And he played a few years for them, and then went on to his fame in Philly with the 76ers. He won an NBA championship with them in '83, two-time ABA champion in '74 and '76 with the Nets. Two-time ABA playoffs MVP both those years, '74 and '76. Most valuable player in '81 with the Sixers. Three-time ABA most valuable player. All 3 years he was on the Nets. 11-time All-Star, 5-time ABA All-Star, 2-time NBA All-Star Game MVP, 5-time All-NBA First Team, 2-time All-NBA Second Team. I can go on and on and on. You get the idea.
And a Long Island guy.
And yeah, Long Island guy. He was born in East Meadow. But he 30,026 points. He averaged 24.2 points per game. over 10,000 rebounds for his career, 10,525. And that's 8.5 rebounds per game, and 5,176 assists in his career. He's one of the greatest dunkers. I mean, he was
the coolest basketball player of all time.
It's just amazing.
Yeah, when he took off from the foul line and dunked it, I still think he has the best play. His that reverse layup that he did, where it looked like he was literally floating in the air.
Yeah, exactly.
Unbelievable.
Like, how the hell did he actually do that? Like that one scene where Jordan goes up and he's was that Space Jam, the movie, when he's just gliding like over every other player. That was Dr. J.
Everybody wanted to be Dr. J.
Absolutely. So just insane though. I mean, he was the original highlight reel. Just crazy good stuff. Just an amazing player. 24.2 points per game, 8.5 rebounds per game, 4.2 assists per game, 2 steals per game. It got, like I said, on and on. And he's obviously in the Hall of Fame. So there you go.
Yeah, if you get a chance to see the documentary about him, I think
it's really good.
NBA TV made it fantastic, and it really goes into a lot of how influential he was on the game and how he really was so much more than just a highlight reel. And he was a tough guy too, which nobody really, I remember him and Larry Bird going at it like fisticuffs, literally just punching the shit out of each other. He really wanted to win. He only got one championship.
Yeah. But he had 2 ABA championships with the Nets. So
yeah, okay.
Yeah, but they were, that was like AFL championships,
exactly.
The upstart league. But I tell you what, when those leagues, when they merged, the NBA certainly adopted much more of the ABA style of play.
Well, Dr. J became the star of the league.
Right.
Think about all those ABA players, the George Gervins, the Dr. J's, there's a lot of them, the Fat Leaders of the world.
And it was that kind of,
Moses Malone.
The playground style of play, which was exciting to watch, and it wasn't the set offense coming down the court every time, and which propelled the Lakers to numerous championships, or the Celtics in particular to numerous championships. But the league started to grow, and it wasn't just filled with white guys running set plays when the ABA came to town, and and Julius was the face of it all. So.
He was,
and not a tough guy off the court, soft spoken, a gentleman,
smart guy, and he's done a lot off the court as well. And he's, I still think is there anybody cooler than Dr. J that's ever played basketball? I'm sorry, you could say Michael Jordan. He was not as cool as Dr. J.
No
one's as cool as Dr. J. No one ever will be.
No
one ever.
He was really kind of the first modern superstar.
Yep.
Right. In personality and the things he could do, and
he was great.
He was. Number 3, Dr. J, Julius Erving. Harry, let us know who number 2 is.
Number 2 is none other than the hick from French Lick, Larry Legend, Mr. Larry Bird. It's interesting. I remember watching I think it was a 5 or 6 part documentary about the rivalry between the Lakers and the Celtics, and obviously the Bird Magic years is what was featured a lot during this time. Larry Bird he's got to be. It's amazing that he's not number 1 on this list, because let's face it, the person who's number 1, I think everybody knows who it's going to be, is just sort of his sheer athleticism and longevity is what makes him number 1. But Larry Bird, who played through a lot of injuries, still was a 3-time NBA champion at a time when he had to go up against Magic Johnson and the Isaiah Thomases of the world in the early days of Michael Jordan and the Knicks. And he's a 2-time NBA Finals MVP, a 3-time Most Valuable Player, 12-time All-Star, 9-time NBA all-first team, one of the best defensive players in the history of the game. And other than Michael Jordan, including LeBron, including some of the other players who are currently playing the game, I don't think there was ever a player who came up bigger in the final moments of a game. And if you really want to understand what Larry Bird was all about, you need to watch that documentary where I think it was James Worthy who just basically said, he came up to us in the timeout and said, I'm going to go in the corner. They're going to pass me the ball. You're going to have your hand in my face. I'm going to shoot it over you and I'm going to win the game. And that's what he did. He couldn't jump. He couldn't run. He was too slow, but he was, playing for a franchise that maybe is the most storied franchise in the history of pro sports, let alone the NBA. He's the best Celtic of all time. And that says a lot, but he is without a doubt the best person to ever step on the Garden court at the Boston Garden. And,
great.
He had a good long career. The end of his career, he was literally had to lay down on the court when he wasn't out there because that's how much pain he was in. And it took its toll on him.
Yeah.
But he was just one of those guys who just always was one step ahead of everybody else on the court. And when the game was on the line, I'm sorry, and the game's on the line, and you have one player to have the ball in the history of the NBA, I'm tossing a coin between Michael Jordan and Larry Bird because they're both that good in the clutch. Yeah, he's just incredible. And oh, by the way, even in a time when his career was kind of cut short, he still averaged over 24 points, 10 rebounds, and 6.5 assists a game. So, yeah, I mean, there's not much else you could say about him. He's one of the best players in the history of the game, and an interesting guy and an interesting story. And I think he'll always be remembered as part of the drama and the rivalry with him and Magic. And those were the guys who really brought the NBA back up to a level that set the table for Michael Jordan and now LeBron and all of the other players who have sort of kept the NBA where it's at as the sport that the NBA was not as popular as it was. And Magic and Larry were certainly part of that. And then, then along came Michael, and the rest is history.
Sure.
Yeah, you talk about, being at the top of a storied list of names, right? Best Celtic ever. I don't know if there's a better list to be at the top of.
Yeah.
There's a lot of great names on that list. And also, he played those rivalries. He played at a time where, and he had good players around him, but there were other teams like the Lakers who had these all-time great players around them.
People forget he had to get through the Pistons. He had to get through the Knicks, a Knicks team that took him to 7 games.
Yeah.
When Bernard King was healthy, he had to get past, Atlanta, and they had to play teams that there was a lot of good teams in the 80s. There was a lot of parity especially in the Eastern Conference. And by the way, when we make it to the finals, we got to play Magic and Worthy and Kareem and right. The list goes on and on. I mean, if you look at those Celtics Laker rivalries and you look at the players on the court at any time, top 7 players, guys sitting on the bench that are Hall of Famers.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
By the way, our 6th man is Bob McAdoo.
Right. That's what I was going to say. Michael Jordan faced teams with quality players, but nobody like that. Again, not trying to disparage Jordan because you can only play and beat the team that's in front of you. But man, Larry was doing it against legends, and that's part of what made him a legend.
Yeah,
he's he's one of those guys who it took its toll on him, and much like Magic's career was cut short for other reasons. Had they been in today's game, had they come out of college earlier, had they had this, load management and all of the sort of sports medicine that goes into today's game, if Larry was able to play 3 more seasons in his prime, I think he would have had another 2 championships.
Right. Right. And imagine if the game wasn't, quite just a little bit less physical than it was. And if he hadn't played those last several seasons hurt and missing games and hampered and not, he was still turning out amazing performances and hitting the shot in the clutch. But boy, what would his numbers have been if he had been, 30% healthier, especially over those last few seasons. And you're right. He could have played a couple more, even at less than 100% of pure Larry Bird. He could have played 2 or 3 or maybe 4 more seasons. And, he would have been.
Yeah. And those were to me, watching the Celtics versus the Lakers for those years. What did they met each other, 5 times in the finals?
I think it was 4 or 5 times.
4 or 5 times. Unbelievable. If they come on, if they're on TV on NBA Classics, I'm watching it.
Absolutely.
There's never been a better rivalry that I've watched in sports, other than maybe the Yankees Dodgers or the Yankees Red Sox, but it's still not as good and not as consistently a toss-up as those Celtics.
Yeah, and you talk about kind of regenerating interest.
Oh yeah,
in the NBA. That rivalry was kind of like the McGuire and Sosa. Run chase of baseball.
So much more, yeah.
Right. But I mean, everybody was picking a side.
Everybody was wearing Converse.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And either green or
or yellow and blue.
Yeah. So energized.
There is a great ad for Converse All Stars but if you look at who was in it, it was fantastic. It was Bird and Magic, and I think it was Bernard King and maybe James Worthy. I can't remember, but it's probably from 85, 84, 85, 86, somewhere in that time period. And it's just like, wow, this is a hell of a lineup. This is a good way to sell sneakers.
An all-star commercial. Yeah. Well, I remember, I wanted to mention this before, I remember it was an ad, for shoes, I think, in the back of a comic book. It was a little 1-page comic with Dr. J and Rick.
Oh, that's who it was, Dr. J. Dr. J was the other guy.
Dr. J and Rick Barry, and at a playground with a bunch of kids, and Dr. J, of course, slams it from, behind the building next to the court or whatever. And then Rick Barry goes, "Now it's my turn," and shoots like a 30-foot shot. And the kids are like, "Wow, how come you guys are so good?" And they're like, "It's the shoes," or
right.
And it was in the back of a comic book. These are 2 of the all-time NBA greats.
Right. All right. Here's the Converse ad. It's Isaiah, Larry Bird, Magic Johnson, Bernard King, Mark Aguirre, Kevin McHale.
A few names you might have heard before.
Yeah, that's
you know anything about basketball. Yeah,
that's a pretty good starting team right there.
Now, what was the price tag? I wonder.
I don't know. It's
on that commercial. Compared to what any other commercial running would have.
Compared to what Kim Kardashian gets to promote lipstick on Instagram.
Well, something like that might have cost more than like a Super Bowl commercial.
Yeah,
Yeah,
who knows? But those were Larry Bird.
There you go.
And again, another guy who you just knew the Knicks could never get past them. And the Knicks had some pretty good teams before Ewing. That one playoff series with King and Bernard King, I think he averaged almost 40 points against them. It's just crazy. Yeah. 3 broken fingers and
look, he could put up, almost 50 almost at will.
Yeah.
Bernard King.
Yeah. Larry Bird, one of the best ever. I'll begrudgingly give Boston their due and say he lives up to all the hype.
There you go. I'll find it in a minute. Never mind.
The Converse ad?
Yeah, I was going to put it up on the screen, but I'll do it.
Yeah.
I'll pull it up in a second.
I sent it to you.
There you go. All right. Well, there you go. Number 2, Larry Bird. Pete, why don't you tell us who number 1 is, unless anybody that really doesn't know who it is. So.
Number 1 is Kerry Kittles.
Kerry Kittles.
I thought it was Ernie Grunfeld.
It's LeBron. Do I even need to? I guess I will. There's so many things to say about LeBron. Let's see. 17 times an All-Star, 1 scoring title. That seems odd, doesn't it? But only 1. And that was 30 points a game, so not bad. 4-time NBA champion, of course. 6 times an All Defensive Player. 4 MVPs. 16 times All NBA. 4-time the Finals MVP. Rookie of the Year. And this is a guy who came out. I'll give you some more numbers here. 27 points per game, 7.5 rebounds, and 7.5 assists. This is a guy. Look, I'm someone who doesn't like media that gives hype to players before they actually do anything. And LeBron obviously got a lot of attention, but guys like LeBron and Bryce Harper and stuff, I'm like, yeah, let me see if you're the real deal. You don't deserve all this talk. Although I did enjoy one incident before LeBron became a professional where there was some sort of controversy about his mother apparently getting a Humvee or a car or something from I guess from
his perspective.
He was in high school, and maybe it was from the Cleveland or something like that. So somebody had given his mom a car, maybe it was an agent or something. And so he came out, and before one of his high school games, he had a little remote control Humvee that he brought out and drove around on the court, kind of, sticking his thumb in the eye, which I thought showed a sense of humor. And look, we all talk about the decision and all that, but he's just, what can you say about LeBron? He's just incredible, and he just keeps going, and he's 78 years old now, and he's, probably going to win another championship. I think he deserves everything all the accolades that he has been given. And that's probably, for me, I think for me, that's high praise, because there's a lot of guys who get a lot of press and a lot of accolades that maybe they don't actually deserve. But I think LeBron does deserve it. He
grew into it.
He did. And other than the decision, he did everything right. He said the right things.
He was thrown into it.
Yeah.
And he never had that chance like Jordan had. I mean, Jordan, how many years was Jordan in the league before he won his first championship?
7.
Yeah. LeBron was never really afforded that. And when he went to Miami, let's face it, that was still Dwayne Wade's team. And that first championship was Dwayne Wade's championship. But then I think LeBron really came into his own when he went back to Cleveland. Yeah. When he won a championship at Cleveland and then won a championship, basically on his own with Cleveland, that's when you were like, okay, this guy's for real. And, he won one last year. He's been in the finals a few times. He is a physical anomaly who, much like Shaq, I think if LeBron was not an unselfish player, I think he could average 40 points a game if he wanted to, because who is going to stop him when he drives down the lane? No one.
Right. And he's also going to get a call.
And he's one of those guys. He's one of maybe not as much as you would think he would, not as much as Jordan did.
Probably amongst the all-time superstars, I will say he does get less calls, it seems.
Yeah, because of his size and his physicality. Yeah. And his game has developed. He's become a much better shooter. He was not a great shooter when he came into the league.
He was not.
And he's become a pretty good three-point shooter, which he was not. Even when he was on the Heat, he was not a great three-point shooter. Yeah. And he's become a guy who just has the durability to just keep playing. And it's not like he's sitting on the bench taking games off. The guy's averaging 40 minutes a game.
Yeah. And he keeps everybody involved. You're right. He facilitates as much as
he's a point forward.
Yeah, it's not, you don't get on that team and at least not now. They put some talent around him. When a couple of years in Cleveland there, it was LeBron and nobody else. And, listen, that was one of the dark moments at finals against the Celtics when everybody said, "Oh, he quit, he gave up." Like, well, name one other player on that team that he put the entire team on his back and took them to the finals and lost to a pretty talented Celtic team. So, you got to forgive some people some transgressions. But other than that, he's done and said everything right. He's been an ambassador for the game. He's definitely earned everything that he's got.
Yeah, and what sets him apart from some of his predecessors is that in a way that I think is very articulate and balanced and measured, he's been a spokesperson for things outside of basketball. He's spoken up on issues of the day in a way that I think has really given some notoriety to them and given them a place in the spotlight. And I think that his voice is a voice that's very well respected by a large group of people. And because of that, I think, you have to give him props. There's people like Bill Russell and people like Kareem Abdul-Jabbar who have taken on hard issues and have become really smart, spokespeople for for whatever side of the issue that they're taking.
Right.
And I think LeBron is one of the few people in today's, sports celebrities who, when he talks about something, people stop and listen.
Yeah. And that's one of the knocks against Jordan.
Sure.
Is that he didn't take a stand on some things. Yeah. So
there you go.
Yeah. Give credit where credit is due.
This is true. Well, there he is. Number 1, LeBron the King James. There he is. Got one thing for you really quick. There you go.
There it is.
There's the
Yeah. See those guys out on a playground somewhere wearing their Converse.
You don't realize how big Mark Aguirre was.
Yeah.
He was a hell of a. I guess technically a small forward, right? Or was he a 2?
There was a 2.
Yeah,
a 2.
That's a pretty good team right there, though.
That's a great team right there. Can you imagine?
Anyway.
Just ask Isaiah; he'll tell you.
Yeah, right.
There you go. So, well, anyway, that kind of brings us to our next segment. Of course, I don't have the sounder ready, but it's okay. I'll just keep talking until I get it ready. There we go. Brings us to our next segment of Old Balls. Old Balls. Harry Lug Nutz, why don't you tell us who our Old Balls recipient is today?
Old Balls recipient today is my favorite small forward of all time. And look, I'm going to go out on a limb here and say maybe the second best New York Knick of all time. And a lot of people won't agree with me, but none other than Mr. Bernard King. A Brooklyn boy, was drafted actually by the New Jersey Nets. Played a couple years for the Nets out of the University of Tennessee. Went to the Jazz, then the Warriors, and then was traded to the Knicks in exchange for Michael Ray Richardson. And I think it's really his career with the Knicks that most people remember him for. And as I think I was mentioning earlier, there was a time when Bernard King was not only the best small forward in the league, I would say that Bernard King was the best player in the NBA. And he was a 4-time NBA All-Star, a 2-time NBA All-First Team. He was the NBA All-Rookie Team, and it was the NBA scoring champion in 85. And in 84, 85, and 86, Bernard King was really dominating basketball and reviving the Knicks at the Garden.
Yeah,
I honestly think if Bernard King stayed healthy, the Knicks might have won a championship with him. And the reason why I say that is that with King and not a lot of other talent around him, they took the Boston Celtics, who went on to win the championship that year, to 7 games. Yeah. And I think, and then there's a lot of people who say, well, if King didn't get hurt, the Knicks would never have had Patrick Ewing, blah, blah, blah. But I watched a lot of Bernard King, and I don't think there was ever a more beautiful player to watch, whether it was on the wing or his turnaround jumper. He had a way of running the wing and diving to the basket that you just don't see anymore. And he was tough. It seemed like he always had broken fingers. It seemed like he was always hurt. And, he tore his ACL towards the end of the season. He rehabilitated. And at the time, nobody ever came back from an ACL tear like that. He stayed out of the media completely. This was at a time when you could do that. And he came back. And his first games back, he averaged almost 23 points a game. But he didn't have quite the explosiveness and quite the sort of dynamic game that he had. And the Knicks released him for the 87 season. And I think that was one of the saddest moments for me as a Knicks fan. And what did Bernard King do then? He came back, played for the Washington Bullets, averaged 20-plus points in 3 consecutive seasons, and averaged 28.4 points a game at the age of 34, and was an all-star once again in a career that had its ups and downs, and obviously had a big chunk of time where he didn't play because of injury. He still averaged over 22.5 points a game, almost 6 rebounds and 3.5 assists. Like I said, he was one of those guys who could put up 60 or score 50 in back-to-back games at a time when nobody was doing that. He was that good of a scorer. And this wasn't at a time when it was an up and down, 127 to 125. I think this was still in the 80s, going into the 90s, when basketball still was pretty physical. And he was one of the greatest. And had he stayed healthy and had he stayed on the Knicks, I do think the Knicks would have won a championship with him. I really do. I think they had the pieces to do it.
Yeah, it's quite possible.
And you could talk about Willis Reed, and you could talk about Patrick Ewing and Walt Frazier. He's one of the best Knicks of all time. There was never a better scorer that put on a Knicks uniform than Bernard King.
That's a fair statement.
I have to say that's fair. Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, there you go. This week's Old Balls.
By the way, just a quick, just to clarify, the LeBron James Hummer story. So his mom bought him a Hummer for his 18th birthday.
Okay.
Which drove people crazy because they were in public housing.
Where did they get the money in?
Didn't have any money, but she basically got the loan for the Hummer because they were banking on LeBron James being a superstar. This is his senior year in high school. And so there was an investigation, and eventually it was ruled that it was not a violation. But he did, when it made the national news, he did bring a remote control Hummer to the game and drive it around on the court. And then he went out and scored 50 points. And although he did get a suspension for getting a couple of sweat jackets from a local store, the high school athletic commissioner, whatever, came down on him for that. But he did get reinstated, and St. Vincent's, his high school team, they won their 3rd state championship that year. So, but I do remember the story about him driving the Hummer around on the court, and to me, that kind of made me like him a little bit more. That he wasn't crying victim. He was having fun with it.
He was rolling with it and having fun. Yeah.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
There you go. All right. Well, that should, a couple hours in, wrap up NBA for today.
Whew, that's the longest NBA so far.
Longest NBA so far.
Let's wrap the whole thing up. Come on.
Let's switch it up. Let's do a little, I can't call it hot stove anymore. It's spring training baseball. Let's talk a little about that. I know we danced around it a little bit in the beginning, but let's start with the Mets for a second. They had the opening day at Cloverfield yesterday. McNeil homered in I guess it was the 3rd. No, or maybe the 2nd, I forget. But in any event, beautiful swing. It was gorgeous. Just so pretty to watch.
Means nothing.
Yeah, I know. But what was more exciting to watch though than that? The next inning, whatchamacallit, they Astros had a runner on first and 1 out, and 2 strikes on a batter, and struck the batter out while the runner took off for second.
Right.
And McCann, the Mets' new catcher, stood up and threw a bullet right to Mr. Lindor and tagged him out, struck him out, throw him out. When was the last time the Mets had a catcher shortstop combo that could actually do that?
Well, between catchers who couldn't throw the ball back to the pitcher and catchers who just sucked and/or couldn't stay healthy and actually stay on the field.
Right, exactly.
Yeah,
then
that's a good thing to see.
That's a great thing to see.
It'd be nice to have a competent catcher behind the plate.
Sure, absolutely. McCann, one of his nicknames is McCannon. I forget who somebody dubbed him that. But hey, it certainly was on that play. But let's hope we see a lot of that during the regular season. But Stroman looked good. Pitched 2 good innings in the beginning. I know, like you said, it's just spring training, but that's where everybody else is right now too. So you see it. But he definitely super confident. They interviewed him after the game, and he said, and I quote, this is his words, I'm not paraphrasing, "My stuff's nasty, and I'm going to go out there and deal all year." So, hey, you know what? I hope he does. It's definitely super confident. You think there's a bullseye on him for that, though? Think people are going to want to tattoo him?
No. Some, maybe.
Silence. Wow. That really drives.
It's preseason baseball. My battery's running out.
Yeah, I don't know. I have to admit it's the old Mets fan in me is saying, well, yeah, let's wait till something actually happens during the regular season.
Well, you know what? It's just a couple of things that happened this week. That's all. I wanted to talk about them. That's all. But one thing I did want to bring up as far as the Mets go, they interviewed Sandy Alderson the other day, and they were talking about the offseason and what the moves that they did make and the ones that they let go and things that couldn't happen, so forth and so on. And this is a little bit of a paraphrase, but they were referring to Springer. And he was saying that they wouldn't do the 6th year for Springer because they have other people to sign.
Right.
Obviously leaning, hinting towards Conforto and re-signing Lindor and that. But he did say this. He said, at some point, even Cohen runs out of money.
Right. Yeah.
Really?
I read that.
The richest owner in baseball eventually runs out of money, but other teams don't? What the hell does that even mean?
Well, and beyond that was what was it going to be? 20-25 million for the extra year.
Right.
That's what's going to break you to get George Springer.
It's not the issue. Yeah, that's what's going to break you to get George Springer. That's insane. I mean, if he wanted to say, "Hey, look, you know what? Steve Cohen doesn't want to dance too far over the luxury tax. We got a couple other players that we have to bring up that are probably going to push us over, and other moves we want to make throughout the season and the end of this season, so forth and so on." And that's all well and good, and that's fine. But to say that even at some point Steve Cohen runs out of money makes no sense.
Yeah. I mean, if you're gonna come out and say, look, we have a number, and this is as high as we want to go. And right. I'm not going to tell you guys necessarily what it is. You don't even have to, But this is where we and signing Springer would have made it more difficult.
Sure.
I mean, it's essentially what he said.
Right.
To do the other things we want to do, okay, but don't give me this. Cohen doesn't have the money.
He's going to run out of money. It's bullshit.
Please. He's got $20 million in his pocket, like I got $5 in my pocket.
Yeah, pretty much.
Give me a break.
Carries it around his wallet. So.
Yeah, that was kind of a stupid thing to say.
So, and they are, just on another note for the Mets, they are wearing a Seavers 41 patch on their jerseys all year this year. Honoring Tom Seavers.
Hoping that his ghost will come back and be able to pitch Game 3 of the playoffs.
There you go. Well,
maybe some of that ghostly spirit will rub off on him. Hey, speaking of the Mets, how about that Mickey Callaway? He just keeps doing offensive things.
Unbelievable. Let's not speak of Mets when we speak about Mickey Callaway, though. How about we separate the two?
Here's the question I want to ask about this, though, because now that news is coming out that he had a extramarital affair.
Okay.
When he was with Cleveland.
Mm-hmm.
And of course they did not reveal that to the Mets, like they didn't reveal that he was harassing a reporter with nudie pictures of someone else, apparently, and all sorts of suggestive words. But here's the thing. There's nothing illegal about having an affair. Right?
Immoral, but not illegal.
Immoral, right. But I would also argue, is it as immoral these days as it used to be? Having an extramarital...
The question is, was it like, is it immoral? Was it ever immoral in France? I mean, it really depends on what your perspective is.
Well, but I mean, it was scandalous, right? And much more of a black mark, let's say,
not in Italy, not in France.
No, but we're not in Italy. No, I mean,
France.
here. But to me, it's not. It happens all the time.
Was it really? I mean, here's my point.
It was.
Well, you never knew about it. It was
that was part of it too.
Shit.
You didn't have as much access.
We never heard about Babe Ruth's personal life.
Right, exactly.
The media just focuses. Who gives a shit about Callaway? I mean, that's the problem. Is what we're focusing on is just.
No, the question I want to ask is, because it's not illegal and it really has nothing to do with baseball, should Cleveland be obligated, or should they feel any reason to say anything about it to the or to anybody else? No, they knew.
They knew he had him extra.
They knew, and I kind of say no. I don't think they're under any obligation to say anything about it, because
that's between him and his wife.
Here's what I always Here's what I always say. Okay, we're talking about athletes. All right, mostly men who are very young and very rich. Why are we holding them to a higher standard than the accountant down the street? How many people have extramarital affairs every year?
Well, that's right.
Millions.
That's part of what I'm saying. It doesn't seem like it's as big a deal.
I'm not saying it's right. It's my personal opinion. It doesn't matter. What I'm saying is that I don't know.
It shouldn't have anything to do with whether or not
it shouldn't have anything. It's a personal matter,
right?
And it happens more often than whatever anybody's opinion of it is relevant.
And why do we hold certain people accountable for certain things and others not?
Right.
Like Karl Malone or Charles Barkley never were criticized for anything that they did, which is far worse than having an extramarital affair. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's like Barkley gets arrested soliciting a hooker, and it's like, that's Charles Barkley.
Yeah.
Well,
which I think should be the right response. But my point is that I just feel like it's
and that's illegal.
You're right.
But the other part of this story is that Terry Francona's son has now come forward and said, my dad knew not just about the affair, but about the harassment issue.
Of course he knew. Of course he did.
And so he's blasting Terry for that, and apparently causing a little friction.
Terry Francona's son is blasting his father.
Blasting his dad, saying he never said anything about it. He should have said something about it.
But when it comes to baseball, I don't care about people having an extramarital affair. I do care about people stealing signs to win the World Series.
Right.
But again, if you know that somebody on your squad, whether it be a coach or a player, look, again, Callaway's not going to jail for harassing.
Let me let you know a little secret. Your kid's soccer coach is having an affair with one of the other kids' moms right now on some sort of suburban playing field. Who cares?
I don't care.
Exactly.
But one of the coaches in the league is sending sexually suggestive texts
That's
to, let's
wrong.
say, one of the kids who's volunteering to referee.
Right. I think that's wrong. Because
you kind of have an obligation to say something about that.
It falls into two categories. It falls into consensual and non-consensual. And
right.
when it's non-consensual, especially when there's a big age limit, and especially when there's a power dynamic that's at play, then it's wrong.
Sure.
Right.
And that's what you should be speaking out against. Which is why I think a lot of the Yankees are speaking out against Herman.
Yeah.
And I think they should be speaking out about it. And I like the fact that they're able to step up and do that. And I think that there's some new leadership on the Yankees, and it's a lot of the newer Yankees who are stepping up and saying, hey, You still have to explain yourself.
This is true.
You might have a contract, but you're not on this team yet.
Right.
You're not in this clubhouse yet.
And speaking of potential new Yankees, not to change the subject, but did you see who the Yankees scouted yesterday?
God, I hope it's a pitcher.
No, it's an outfielder.
Great.
That would be Mr. Yoenis Cespedes.
Oh, he'd be a great fit.
There you go. The Yankees.
Why?
The Yankees scouted him yesterday, along with the Rays and the Jays.
Why? What we need is an outfielder who can't really play the outfield, who maybe can hit every other day, and
because you don't have one of those.
Because we don't have enough of those.
You don't have anybody who it's home run or bust.
Right.
No.
More often
when you hit a lazy fly ball into the outfield, you're like, this could be interesting. Who's always being replaced by Mike Talkman in the 7th inning.
Yeah, but you know what? You'll always have fresh boar in the clubhouse.
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
There'll always be a boar on a spit.
Gonna spit it.
Over next to the ice tub. Yeah.
We haven't had that since Louis Dion had
Go get yourself some pulled pork. Go ahead. Have some fun. Go
ahead. Could have been a wiener.
Guys getting thrown out of the game just so they can go back and have a nice fresh boar sandwich.
Yeah, Filipino box spring hog.
We got some of those Panamanian rolls back there. I love the slow roasted boar on the Panamanian roll.
That's great. With a little nice barbecue sauce on that.
I'm gonna argue. No matter what the up calls, I'm gonna argue.
Coleslaw, you're done. You're good to go.
Yeah. Getting thrown out so I can go have some boar.
Oh, what a bore! All right. Well, anyway,
it makes sense with the Yankees. That's why I'm saying, is Brian Cashman losing it? I mean, I don't know. It's like, let's get Garrett Cole, and then let's make him the Giannis Antetokounmpo of Major League Baseball.
Of the Yankees, anyway.
It's just, and granted, I get it. The Yankees are stacked, but my issue with the Yankees is that the Yankees that everybody knows who are getting the highest salaries are the Yankees that I could give two shits if they left tomorrow.
Right.
If they got pitching. That's the problem. What has Giancarlo Stanton done for the Yankees since he's been here? Yes, I understand Aaron Judge is a big name. Everybody loves him in New York, and he had a couple really good seasons. But let's look at Aaron Judge. What has he really done the last couple of years?
Sure.
You know what I feel about Gary Sanchez. I want
Judge. He hit a home
run
the other day.
I want Judge to stay. Well, Corey Kluber pitched 2 scoreless innings, and the Yankees only gave up 3 hits today as a pitching staff.
Sanchez hit a home run the other day, and it was
of course he did.
And of course, what did I hear the next morning on the radio? He's fine now.
That's right. He's back.
He hit one and it went out. Everything's okay.
He needed that one. That was it. He needed to hit that one.
You know how Reggie Jackson's Mr. October and Derek Jeter's Mr. November? Gary Sanchez is Mr. March.
Yeah, it was the sign that he's going to be just fine. Looks like
all things are good.
Turning around for Gary Sanchez.
And I hope I'm wrong. I hope Gary Sanchez. But look, it's just the time to trade Sanchez was 3 years ago when he was hitting 162 and still valued by everybody.
Right.
The Yankees are just there's a pride that in the Yankees right now that are holding on to some of these players. And they have valuable assets. And this idea, 3 years ago, it was fine. We're young. We're going to build this team. Now it's like, all right, these guys are in their prime. They don't have much left. You got arguably the best pitcher in baseball, or one of the best pitchers in baseball, who doesn't have a ton of time left. And we're still trying to develop Gary Sanchez into a catcher, and we're still wondering if Gleyber Torres can play shortstop, and we don't know if Gary Sanchez is even going to play the outfield. Maybe he'll just DH, but we're going to go look for Cespedes.
Right. And Cole doesn't even want to pitch to Sanchez, right?
No.
He prefers the other guy.
Yeah, Kyle Gashioka,
yeah. So your best pitcher doesn't even want to throw.
No, well,
to the guy that you're trying to rehabilitate.
Tanaka didn't want to pitch to him either, and he's gone. But so the top 2 pitchers, because he's a horrible catcher. I mean, and I'm not saying this to be mean to Gary Sanchez. He's just a horrible catcher. He'd be great on the Kansas City Royals as a DH. But the Yankees have just invested too much in him, and it's just. It's too bad because I really do think the Yankees are 1 or 2 pitchers away from winning another World Series. And guess what? It's not like they don't have people that they can trade to get those pitchers. They're just not doing it. It's like it's like, you know what? We're going to cook a meal and we've got a whole bunch of rice, but we're not going to get any vegetables. We're just going to hold on. We're not going to trade you this. We have 27 pounds of rice, but we're just no beans. We're just gonna hold on to this because it's going to be valuable someday. You know,
so you're saying you don't like Asian players. Is what I'm hearing.
No, I love it. It has nothing to do with that. What I'm saying is that it's just
saying they're not enough. The rice is just not enough.
You never have enough pitching, and they need pitching, and they've needed pitching for 3, 4, 5 years now. And
well, look, they might change their tune. The president said we're going to have enough vaccine for every adult in the country by the end of May. So maybe when we get some fans back in the stands, they're going to be okay. Things are getting back, and that revenue's coming in, and now we're going to bring those pitchers in to help them make a late push. Maybe maybe that has something to do with it.
I don't think it
must be hard.
I think the Yankees have to get them through trades. I don't think it's money, but I think they have to get it through trades. I think it comes down to actually trading players or getting rid of players to make cap room to sign somebody.
Right.
And Brian Cashman, supposedly the genius. I don't see it. I don't see it with Boone, and I don't see it with Cashman. I'm not in love with either of them, and I'm impatient. And I'm a Yankees fan. Go get them. It was impossible to get A-Rod, but they got A-Rod. It was impossible to just go get them. Go get the pitchers. Go get them.
Yankees still paying A-Rod, or is that contract?
They are.
They are still paying him, right?
Still paying him, yeah.
They're not. They're paying him 1/25 of what they're paying Giancarlo Stanton.
Yeah. Oh, please, that contract.
That's what's killing them is the old Yankees thinking of all right, we're going to sign the big players.
Is there still any Ellsbury money on the books?
Yeah, right. Yeah, or what's his name?
Johnny Damon still
Johnny Damon.
$54,000 a year for the next 3 years.
That's the luckiest cocksucker ever played sports. Jesus Christ. Johnny Doug. God, he makes Chuck Knobloch seem logical.
Do you have any other local sports news? Because I wanted to bring up one other topic. Get your
go for it. Let's round this thing out.
Well, I just wanted to say a couple of or one other thing. I don't know if you noticed this article. There was a report out that Albert Pujols has been lying about his age.
What?
It came out. I don't know when it came out. I just read it today. It's by all accounts he should be 41, and reports say that he's actually 44. So I actually got to pull it up and read it more through.
He'd still be the 5th starter on the Yankees if he came in as a pitcher.
Yeah, either way, he's fallen off the cliff.
You think his wife wants him to retire?
Yeah, right.
You see the one putting out the rumor?
Yeah, the yard work.
trying to get LA to dump him. He's actually 44.
The yard work really doesn't look. It really is building up.
Really up. Al, get home. So.
What did he hit last year? I don't know what it was. It wasn't very good, though.
I'll pull it up.
Better than Sanchez.
If he has another lousy season.
He was better than Gary Sanchez.
It's probably, exactly. So go ahead. Say your thing you bring up.
I heard this story the other day. It's about the Mariners and their top prospect, who's Jared Kelenic, I believe. Oh, yeah. And he is saying that he did not sign a contract extension, and he believes he was punished by not being brought up last year. And he's like their top prospect, and he's ready to go. This is a guy.
Service time, they're saying.
Yeah, so they're going to get more service time. Now, you might think, this is a disgruntled player. Except that Kevin Mahler, who's the GM of the team, actually said the same thing in a press conference and said, we're going to get an extra year by not
admitted it.
He admitted it. So the question I wanted to ask is this really a good thing to do? And there were a couple other guys on the team who did sign extensions, and they came up. And Kelenic is ready to come up. By the way, a draft pick by the Mets.
Yeah.
Went to the Mariners.
We got Cano for him.
We got Cano, so great.
Cano had a couple good years for you guys. Let's be honest.
Sure.
One a little bit last year.
So my question is, is this like right or wrong? Should the Mariners be doing this?
Yes.
I mean,
the answer is it's not right nor wrong.
Right.
It's not right nor wrong. It just is. It's business.
I think it's part of what these smaller market teams need to do to hold on to talent.
Hey, you know what? It was something that was talked about a couple of years ago when they brought up Pete Alonso, right? And they did
this. They did this actually to Bryce Harper.
Yeah, well, they did to Bryce Harper, but they said they were going to. I mean, but for all accounts, I mean, it's the Mets we were talking about, and it's the old regime of the Mets we're talking about, right? And Brody Van Wagenen, you would have thought with the Wilpons they would have kept him down, bring him up in May, and you got another year at service time,
Right.
And Brody Van Wagenen went to bat, no pun intended, and said, no, we're bringing this kid up with us. We're bringing him right back from spring training. He's starting day one. And they lost a year of service time with Pete Alonso because they didn't sit on him for a month. Yeah. So, it's business. It's business.
Right. But the larger point here is you're not trying to win. You're not putting yourself in the best position to win by bringing up a guy. This is your top prospect. He's got a great slash line in the minors. But you're putting kind of the analytics and the numbers of, we're going to manipulate the service time, and because we're going to do that, we're going to sacrifice giving ourselves a better chance to win.
But you know what? There's a lot of teams doing that right now. I mean, my question mark is how the hell are baseball teams or any of these sports franchises staying afloat? Yeah. There's nobody buying tickets.
Yeah.
And I understand TV contracts and
listen, probably a lot of the teams that were
a lot of these guys are dipping into their pockets. Look, the Mets were doing that. The Mets had how many owners before what's his name bought them?
1, 2, 3.
No, they had like 7 owners.
Well, I mean,
Bill Maher was
owners.
but even
principal
but do you know the owners that had minor shares were dipping into their savings to pay for?
Yeah, you're right. Bill Maher was talking about that a couple of weeks ago. He was saying money.
There's a lot of teams right now that are just this makes sense. I'm going to bring them up and then start the clock ticking on when I need to pay them when I'm getting some revenue coming in.
Right.
It's not like they're going to.
Also, I think
here's the other thing too. He doesn't have to sit out the year. No, he's got to sit out a month. He comes up in like a little bit into May.
Right. No, but the point is he sat out last year when he could have been up and playing.
He could have been up last year, right? And they want to bring him up this year.
They can pay me what they're paying him, and I'll sit out for 7 years.
Right. Exactly.
I'll Steve Young it.
Right. Yeah. My rookie year, I'll be 48.
And also, I'd say I think a lot of these teams they weren't necessarily how you mentioned how are they staying afloat? I don't think they were as poor. They cried more poor than they actually were.
But it's still for them.
It's got to be tough.
I'm going to tell you this. For small market teams or mid-market teams, it's all about profit. They don't give a shit about anything else. This is why it's remarkable what the Padres are doing.
Yeah.
This is why, teams like the Mets and the Yankees and the Dodgers and even, the Cardinals and some of these other teams, they have reserves where they can, rob Peter to pay Paul. Right. The Milwaukee Brewers do not.
Right, exactly.
The Kansas City Royals do not.
Jared Klenick is 21 years old. All right, he's 21 years old. He in July he'll turn 22. All right, and he's complaining about his service time. Jeff McNeil, and granted there was a couple other issues with Jeff McNeil. I think he was out for a bit and then he came back and so forth and so on. As far as the Mets go, he's entering his third year in the majors, and he's going to be 20. He's going to be 29. in April. Right. So, I mean, Kalenic at 21, you know what? I agree. You want to play, get it, you're hungry, you're 21. Shut up. Relax. It's business. You come up in May, everything will be fine.
Yeah, right. But if this kid's really going to be good and maybe going to be a stalwart of your team,
right, and
you're turning him off, and he's going to go somewhere else as soon as he can because you fucked me and cost me,
right, how many other rookies do you hear bitching like he is, though? You know what I'm saying?
I think it's a slow time for sports news right now.
Yeah, that's true.
And on that note, I do have to go.
You do?
I do. So you guys can continue on with third,
we got hockey.
Like I said, I'm going to sign off. But please do continue with hockey.
We still continue with hockey. Well, we got about 5 minutes left, so you really have to go.
I do.
For 5 minutes.
I'm going to go.
You want to go?
All right. I'm sorry,
Harry.
but I do. All right.
No thing to be sorry about. So.
I will talk to you next Wednesday.
We will talk to you soon. Absolutely.
All right. Bye-bye.
See you later.
Bye. Anyway, I think, look, I don't know all the circumstances. I don't know what he did last year or what he was supposed to do last year. I do know that he was only in his second year from rookie ball in the Mets organization when they traded for him 2 years ago. So, I mean, a lot of kids stay in the minors for, you're talking 3, 4, maybe 5 years before you're coming up or getting bounced up. And when you come up, you're not coming up at the beginning of a season. It's not like Pete Alonso. It's
right.
It's they're bringing them up. When the rosters expand in September, you're getting their feet wet with a little big league plate appearances and so forth and so on, and then you see how they do, and then you go back next spring and see how they're doing with everybody else in spring training, and you make a decision at that point. But
I'm not crying boo-hoo for him.
No, I don't think you are. I'm just saying.
I bring it up in the larger issue that the team is putting these, the future consideration ahead of trying to put the best quality product that you can on the field.
Sure.
Which I understand it in these times, and we don't know what the revenue and what the fan situation is going to be,
right? And
that lack of revenue, and I think that has a lot to do with the way free agents have been or have not been signed this offseason and all that. But you still ought to be trying to. You still ought to be putting the best team you can on the field.
Right.
And if they're really going to get into a state where you're going to punish somebody, you sign this contract extension, or you're going to sit in the minors for another year. That's kind of dirty pool.
Yeah, I agree with that. I agree with the whole you sign.
Yeah, that's why I bring it up. I don't feel bad for the kid.
I agree with. Service time issues. Yeah, because the bottom line is, I mean, playing it that way, you sign this or you're going to sit down. I get that. That I get. That's dirty pool. That's bad. That's bad practice, whatever you want to call it. But as far as just the whole service time thing, where if they don't come up on April 1st and they come up, the second or third week in May, we're talking about a rookie that may be amazing and may be a future all-star, habitual every year, in and out, all-star. How much is that one brand new player? How many more games? WAR, wins above whatever you want to call it, gonna get you for those 6 weeks he's not in that season. You know what I'm saying? And unless they're right at the cusp and they have nobody in the outfield and they need his bat and they need his glove and they're going to be so far down, it's going to be a foot race to try and to get back to where they could try and compete by the end of the season. That short of that, what's 6 weeks? To get them that extra year before they have to go to arbitration and with the way contracts are going, especially if he is going to be that big of an all-star. You're talking about a huge contract, the way contracts are going. Look at Tatis, Junior. He's his second year, and he's got that contract. So let's say that's going to happen, right? They want to be a little bit. They want to have a little bit more flexibility with that money, especially in Seattle. We're not talking about L.A. We're not talking about New York. We're talking about Seattle. Obviously they're probably better off than Milwaukee, but it's still not a huge market team.
Yeah, we're not expecting them to be a perennial contender.
Sure, exactly.
Although if they are, this kid's most likely going to be a part of it.
Right.
But again, you're risking alienating him.
Right.
And the team's going to be, and they may bring him up at whatever point this season you would think they would.
Right.
But the team's going to be less attractive for other players to go there.
Right.
Maybe because they see how they're treating this kid.
Hey, you know what? Maybe
if he's not playing, if they're not going to bring him up this year at all, which I think they are, but if they don't, then you're going to have other players looking at Seattle and going, well, you got this great guy in the minors who could be a linchpin for you, and you're not playing him so that you can avoid arbitration for another year.
Right. Now,
that's not the organization that I want to be a part of.
Right. Now, I agree with that. And if they're going to if they sat him last year and didn't bring him up at all, and last year was 60 games. So, at that point.
Yeah, that's the other thing is last year was such an anomaly that all the rules kind of go out the window.
Exactly. If they're going to sit him this entire year and not bring him up at all, then I have an issue with that. If they're going to sit him for 6 weeks, so it's the service time thing, and then they bring him up in May, and it's lights out, and it's full speed ahead at that point, just to get that extra year arbitration. I mean, again, that's fine. I don't see any problem with that because it's done all the time. And this kid's 20. It's not like he's 24 and he's been fighting his way through the minors and paying his dues and hitting the ball and doing everything right. And everybody's screwing around with him. No. He's 21 years old. He's only been in minors for 3 years, maybe 4.
Right, but I mean, wouldn't you want to if he's ready? Wouldn't you want to cash in on him?
Absolutely,
right.
Absolutely.
You don't want him languishing for another.
I don't either. And as a fan, and I'm just saying, as a fan of baseball.
Right.
If I were a
Mariners fan,
I was a Mariners fan. I want to see him on opening day. Absolutely.
Yeah. And if he's going to be great, we'll pay him the extra money when we need to pay him. And if it's a year earlier, I don't care.
So
I want him
out
there.
And that was the whole pretense with the Mets bringing Pete Alonso up when they did.
Right.
If they sat Pete Alonso down, wherever, it just sent him up to Syracuse or to Binghamton or whatever, and let him sit up there for a few weeks, and then bring him up in May of 2019 instead. Well, say goodbye to the home run rookie home run record. Say goodbye to hindsight's 2020. Say goodbye to rookie home run record. Say goodbye to rookie of the year. Blah 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 blah, and everything else. But so that was a good move, right? But my point is I get the business of that. Now, if you put in if you put into play the whole trying to force his hand to make him sign an extension, and if he doesn't, saying he's going to sit down a whole nother year, that's crap. That's horseshit.
I don't think he's going to sit down the whole other year. But
right. So
it's still kind of dirty pool.
Yeah.
Because because Mahler admitted that that's what they did last year. Right. And you've got, a couple of guys who signed extensions, and lo and behold, they're up and playing.
Well, maybe he forces their hand and says he wants a trade, and the Mets get him back.
Yeah, could be.
Hey, here, we'll give you Cano back.
By the way, I know we talked about this before, but I just wanted to reiterate because I did a little more digging into the Fernando Tatis contract.
Sure.
This might be the future of how teams do things, and it's kind of the opposite. I mean, we talked about, because you asked the question, I think, last week, do you pay the guy for what you think he's going to be, or do you pay him for what he's already done? Right. Well, this contract, you're paying him for what you think he's going to be.
Right.
Here's the base salary starting with this year, $1 million. Next year, 5. 2023, 7. 2024, 11. 2025, 20. Then 20. Then 25, 25, and then 2029. Base salary heads up to $36 million, and that's the last 6 years of the contract at $36
million. So it's
And this year they'll pay him $11 million. I guess it's a $10 million signing bonus. But then the yearly cash out for 2022 is the $5 million, $7 million, $11 million. It's just what the contract is.
Right.
And this could end up being really smart if he's great and he stays healthy. You're going to have money to pay other players,
sure,
to bring other pieces to build around this kid. You're not paying him $20 million until 2025. You're getting 4 more seasons of which he's making 18, 19. He's making $24 million over the next 5 seasons.
Right.
No, excuse me, 4 seasons.
4 seasons. Yeah,
that's crazy. You're getting him at $6 million a year over the next 4 years.
That is crazy.
Average. And again, you're going to have money to build around him. Look, most of the guys in these long-term contracts, they don't finish the contract there.
Right.
They don't end up in the place where they started. They get traded or whatever.
So San Diego's being smart, and they sign him. And I agree that paying a player for his potential versus paying a player for his accolades. It makes more sense because, sure, you're going to give him big money towards the end of the contract, but that's big money now. When you get there, that is not big money then, if everything continues down the path.
What is $36 million going to be?
$36 million now is big money.
When they start paying him the $36
You're talking 50. Things would be upwards of in the mid 40s or higher, or closer to 50
right.
a year at that point. It's just going to be sick money. It's going to be ridiculous.
It's risky either way because he could flame out, he could get hurt, But again, if that happens in the next 5 years, you haven't spent 25 or 30 million a year on him, right?
Sure.
So if he burns out in 3 years, you're getting 3 good years, and you're paying him 1 and 5, and you're paying him 13 million over those 3 years.
Sure.
And again, you're gonna eat it later on. But you're right, that per dollar, $36 million, $2029 is going to be a little bit different than $36 million, $2021. So
exactly,
an interesting way to. But again, paying a big money now is a risk as well, because he could get hurt, and and then you've spent a lot of money on a guy who doesn't play.
Right.
So very interesting. But looking at those numbers, I went, they're really only going to pay him $1 million in salary this year, and $5 million. But again, and we talked about, again, a long-term contract. And I think what we'd say the average was 24, 25.
Average winds up being like 24, 25 million.
Yeah, something like that. So it's going to be interesting to see how it works out. And if over the next 4 or 5 years it does work out, you may see, quote unquote, can't miss.
Sure.
Guys getting these kind of contracts from now on, which would be kind of the opposite of what they do now.
Exactly.
So I just want to take a little deeper dive on that, because when I really started looking at the numbers, I went, they're only going to pay him $5 million next year? It seems outrageous for a player that good.
Exactly.
But there's a method to the madness.
Absolutely.
And again, they're going to have that more money to put those, especially free agent pieces that are maybe a little older and only have a couple of years. And you're going to get a couple of good years out of a guy who's, was borderline superstar, a really, really good player, and he's commanding a lot of money because of the market.
Sure.
We're going to get him for those last, hopefully very productive years of his career, and he's going to help us win a championship. And then his contract's up. We don't renew. We cut him loose, but we can pay him the, 25 that he's making, because we're not paying Tatis the 25 or 30 million every year.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
Early on in the contract.
It's smart. It's a smart way to
do it. Very interesting. Very interesting.
We spoke about Jarek Kelenic and where he's at, and what his potential is and everything else up in Seattle, and getting traded away from the Mets. And just wanted to bring up Jimenez, and of course, not to say there's anything wrong with this, and I wish him well. I hope he does. I hope he has a fantastic career in Cleveland or wherever else he goes, if he doesn't stay there. But Lindor is the better bet. Obviously, that's hands down. End of story. He's the proven commodity. But yesterday, Jimenez went 4 for 4 with a triple, a homer, and 3 RBIs, and his glove was like glue. So
yeah.
Hey.
Yeah, well, he was the better piece between him and
he was
Rosario.
the better piece between
he was
him
the better
and Rosario,
piece of that. Look, it's if Lindor wasn't who Lindor is, then you could say, well, boy, maybe you got a pretty good prospect here, and maybe you give him a couple years to develop. And but you're talking about the best shortstop in the game.
Yeah, you're not
both defensively and offensively.
Yeah, you're not doing it. Here's the thing. We anybody Cleveland at this point, but prior to the deal, the Mets could have only hoped that Jimenez would turn out to be as good as Lindor. So
even
or close to it.
2/3 as good as Lindor.
Right, exactly.
Still pretty damn good for a shortstop.
So you got to take it. But the bottom line on that whole thing is they need to re-sign Lindor.
Yeah,
they do. and Conforto, of course, too. And if it comes down,
they can do it now because they didn't get Springer or
They
Bauer.
didn't get Springer or Bauer. They have the money to do it. Hey, you know what? Let's call it what it is. They could have done it with Bauer and Springer.
They could.
Okay?
They could.
I
look.
We
all wanted. Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say Steve Cohen. I know it's his money. We're all great at spending somebody else's money, right? But the bottom line is, he did say he wants to win. In 3 to 5 years. He didn't say he wants to win this year, so we got to get over that. And I'll be honest with you, as a quick aside, I'm so tired of looking on all these Mets groups on Facebook and these blogs and everything else, and these people writing in, this is going to be a horrible season. Oh my God,
it was much better than it was.
This sucks. I can't believe this is here we go again. it's the Wilpons all over. Are you kidding me?
It's hard to get over that, though.
It is hard to get over it, but get over it because it's not the Wilpons anymore.
Yeah, and it was not a bad offseason. It just wasn't great.
It was the best offseason they've had in a long time. It's just not what everybody expected it to be. But on the other note, Cohen did say he wants to be the East Coast Dodgers. Of course, the East Coast Dodgers are already in New York. They're the Yankees.
He wants to win one out of every 5 World Series that he goes to.
One out of every 5 World Series he goes to. But he wants to be, as far as spending goes, as far as getting the players and the players and spending, he wants to be the East Coast Dodgers. All right. Well, the East Coast Dodgers go over the luxury tax, and they bring in everybody at ridiculous amounts of money. So he's not doing that yet. So I think him making that statement is probably where everybody is in saying, why didn't he bring this one in? Why didn't he bring this one in? Why didn't he bring this one in? So, if he didn't say that and he just left it at win a championship in the next 3 to 5 years and be competitive all the time and going forward, keep, habitually being competitive and several other championships down the road and keep it going. If he just did that and just said that, then I think a lot of people would have been a little bit more easy on it. But the bottom line is they have to re-sign Lindor and Conforto. Yeah. And you know what? I mean, and here's another note, too. You're going to have Syndergaard looking for a contract, too, after this year. And granted, who knows what he's going to be when he comes back. I hope for him and the Mets and everybody that he does pitch well and, he's able to bounce back from the Tommy John. But the other thing, too, is Stroman. I mean, if he's pitching, if he's pitching, 3/4 of, how he says he's going to pitch,
Right.
And what he was doing up in Toronto before he did come to the Mets. Yeah. Then you got to pay him too.
Yeah, it's going It's going to cost you money to keep the team together. That's
exactly.
But here's the thing, though. This year is not, as far as the offseason goes, it's not a fluke.
No.
In other words, Mets teams in the past under some other people who owned it before, I forget their names.
I don't remember.
You kind of brought in, like when they brought in Cespedes, right? They re-signed him. And he said, they're maybe making a commitment, right? They want to get better. They want to win.
Right.
And then it really didn't work out, and then they got cold feet.
Right.
There's been a lot of that where they make a move or two, and you kind of go, maybe they're actually going to, put some effort and some money into this, and we're going to get somewhere. And then the next year, it's almost like the Marlins, right? They win a World Series,
right?
But they're in Florida, and nobody gives a shit.
Right.
So the next year, they don't do so well. People don't show up because they're not winning every game. And so then they sell off the team, right? And then they rebuild. And then what was it, 4 years later or 6 years later, whatever? They win another World Series. And then they do the same thing. Laurier just dismantles the team because there wasn't enough to kind of keep bringing the fans in. So, they get cold feet. But I don't think that is the case now. We're going to see continued effort to make this team better every year in each off season.
Absolutely. No, I agree with that.
Definitely. That's certainly a comforting thought.
Yeah, there's not going to be any of that going forward. And to be quite honest with you, just going back to that Cespedes thing, of all of the signings, free agent, even though he was on the Mets, free agent signings, big signings, contracts they could give anybody, the worst person that they could have given it to, that one contract they could have given to, was Yoenis Cespedes.
Yeah.
Because Yoenis Cespedes only plays when he's on a contract year. That's it.
Right.
Other than that, he doesn't even. And when I say he doesn't play, I mean he just doesn't play.
Yeah. Well, right. That's it. It's not like he's out there and he's giving you lousy numbers, but at least maybe he's hitting a few home runs.
Right.
No, he's cutting his foot off, killing a wild boar, and then not playing for a year and a half.
Right. Exactly.
Or, hurting his heels hurt.
He's got the money. He's got a contract. So why does he have to play baseball? He's got the money.
Please.
So Yoenis Cespedes, like whichever Bauer. Was basically, other than obviously before now, was 1 year contract. Yoenis Cespedes would be a perfect candidate for that because he'd play every year.
Right.
Because every year would be a contract year. So he's just a 1 year guy. Give him a 1 year contract and that's it. And, what is he, 32 now, I think? 33, Cespedes. What's he going to do? Unless somebody picks him up, I think I read that the Yankees scouted him, and so did the Rays and the Blue Jays. Where's he going? I mean, for him, obviously, probably perfect for the Rays to pick him up, right?
I would say he might be a kind of an additional piece or a missing piece on a team that is, had success last year. and maybe is on, thinks they're on the cusp again. You might see even, a team like maybe the Braves pick him up.
Right.
Or who knows? Maybe the Padres, if they, because if he's not going to get a lot of money, somebody's going to be willing to give him some money for that potential, even at 32.
Right. I would say that he's probably, his best bet is looking at American League teams, though, that could use a DH, because what's he doing in the field?
Yeah. Right. Well, no one's going to bring him on to be a full-time player.
Right. Exactly.
But if you do think he can still hit, even if you're a National League team, you might bring him in to play, every third day. Could he play every third day? Or
every third day,
like that?
Throw him out in left field every third day, and bring him in, obviously, and then you can bring him off the bench the other 2 days, for
if he shows any inclination for pinch hitting,
sure,
then that's a hell of a guy to put up when you're ready to yank your pitcher out.
Sure, absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
Imagine you're putting up,
you want to set.
Yeah, you don't have to hold him because you might have to put him in, or you don't want to use a guy that might go in the field and then you have to pull a double switch or whatever.
Sure.
You're like, just let him. It's like a video game. Right. You just let him. You just, I play the old Nintendo 64 game, and you draft your team, and there's always a couple of guys you draft at the end. They're just bats. You go, these are the guys that are going to hit for my pitchers. They're never going to see a second on the field.
Not a bit. And then with Cespedes, they'll have a runner on first and second with 2 outs, and they'll pull the pitcher, put him in, and he'll pop out. But But hey, you know what? I hope for him that I
hope he has a very mediocre career.
I hope he has a mediocre career. I hope he gets picked up and he can play a little baseball. That's all.
I hope wherever he goes, he does moderately well. That's the most I can.
The most you can give him.
The most I can wish for him. Yeah.
All right. Anyway, all right.
Let me throw one thing at you. One NHL thing. I don't want to get into a big thing.
No worries.
But here's what I want to, because I'm hungry.
I agree. We didn't talk about any NFL tonight. You believe that?
Yeah, well, I don't. There's nothing worth.
Well,
I know there's a few things going on, but
there's a couple things going on. They can wait. The biggest thing is just to mention really quick, if we want to throw the NFL crawl up there. Well, it's just that free agency starts on March 17th, and the draft is the end of April. There you go. There's our NFL.
Yeah, there you go.
Throw the NHL that way. I got one thing too, but go ahead.
Here's what I want to say about the NHL. There's something I want you to think about, because I don't want to talk about it now.
No.
Until Harry's back on the show.
You got it.
I know he's a big NHL guy. like you and I are.
Absolutely.
Here's the thing. We've got these 4 divisions, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're separated. They only play each other.
Right.
What do you do? And they will not play each other in the playoffs.
No.
Until the final 4.
Right.
So how do you rank them? How do you seed them when you get to the playoffs? Because you don't, right? Like we were talking. I think we were talking about the great story of Toronto, right? Who doesn't like the Maple Leafs? They're in first in the Scotia North Division, beating up on all the other Canadian teams there.
Right.
They're the number 1 scoring, and you know what? They might be for real. I heard this today. They are the number 1 scoring team in the league. Number 2, I think, is Winnipeg.
Yeah, Winnipeg's up there, yeah.
And Toronto just shut them out 2 games in a row.
Right.
So Toronto might be for real. So Toronto comes out of the Scotia North, and how do you know how they're going to fare against Tampa Bay or Carolina or the Capitals or St. Louis or the Golden Knights or whoever comes out of these other divisions? You don't. Because you haven't seen them play all year. It's going to be very interesting. And
what is it going to be? Is it going to be the top 4 in each division, and then when they get down to 1 in each division, they play?
Yes. Then you're going to have the Eastern and Western,
Eastern finals and Western finals, so to speak. Whatever that works to be. Yeah. And then of course the Stanley Cup.
So think about that and how they might. I don't want to talk about it too much because Harry left us, but. Just think about what would be a good way to figure out who gets.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it too, I mean, there could be a team that's the 5th or the 6th seed in one division that's better than the 2nd, 3rd, or 4th seed in another division.
Yeah,
and they don't get in because it's not the East and West or one conference and another conference or whatever.
I mean, this sort of harkens to NCAA sports.
Sure.
Right? Yeah. You almost have like conference, you literally have conference tournaments now.
Sure.
And the winner of that is, obviously going to the playoffs, and you're going to kind of take that into account in the seeding, I guess. I don't know. Be interesting. So, but we can talk about that next week. We will get Harry's thoughts on that. But I just want to throw it out there and get your mind clicking on it.
That's a great thing. We'll definitely bring that up next week. We'll write that down and we'll jot that down and we'll bring that up next week. That's good. I think that should wrap it up for tonight. What do you think? You think we should?
We're right in our 2.5 to 3 hour range. Well, actually, I was talking to somebody about the show the other day, and they were like, "Oh, wow, how long is the podcast? You do like an hour every week?" I go, "Oh no, we're usually 2.5 to 3.5." And he went, "Oh man, I love sports. I don't think I could talk about sports for 3 hours." I go, "Well, I only have to do an hour," and then Bernie, I'd probably do more than an hour, and Bernie does more than an hour, and then John, you do like 24 minutes because he and I never let you get much of a word in.
I try to get a word in, but
you are like the moderator. You're very good at it, and I appreciate it.
I try. And if you notice too, I've developed my breathing techniques so that I don't have to take that long of a pregnant pause to take a breath, so I can keep talking once I get a place to.
Yeah. And I noticed you keep your lungs full so that when there's an infinitesimal pause, you can begin speaking immediately.
I get right in there.
If you have to breathe in before you start speaking,
it never works.
The moment is gone.
Never works. It's gone.
Well, at least we all admit it. I think there was one show many weeks ago where I don't know, you had to take a phone call or something.
Right. Yeah.
Or you froze up. And you had to.
Oh yeah, I froze up. Yeah, you're right.
So you left the show for a few minutes, and I said, "This is the part of the show where Harry says a lot of smart things about sports, and I interrupt him a lot." And that's how it went for the 2 or 3 minutes before you came back.
Back on, yeah.
But I think it's important that we, at least for me, face up to who and what I am, and until somebody really gets upset, I'll just keep doing what I do.
It's all good.
It's what makes us work so well together.
Exactly. And that's what brings it together, and it makes it a fun show. So anyway, all right. Well, we'll wrap it up on that note for today. We want to thank everybody for watching, and for those of you just listening to the audio podcast, thanks for listening. Don't forget to visit our website, www.loggerroom.com. That's LAGERROOM.com. And please remember, like us and follow us on all of our social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and our YouTube channel. All of them are at The Logger Room. Remember, we go live with the video podcast on both Facebook and YouTube every Wednesday at 7:30. And for those of you, that's PM, by the way, folks. And for those of you that just want to listen to the audio podcast, you can do so on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, TuneIn, and Stitcher. And if you haven't done so already, please subscribe to one or more of those feeds, and you'll never miss a show. Again, thanks for following along with us. Have a wonderful week. Have a great weekend. Don't forget to watch the NBA. It's not NBA All-Star Weekend. It's NBA All-Star Sunday. Remember? Check all of that out. Enjoy it. Have a great weekend, and we'll talk to you soon, folks. Take care. Cheers.
Peace.